There we go. We should be going, I think.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
I'm waiting for it to load up here.
I just got a notification at the top of my screen about Big J's Custom Airguns going
Okay.
live.
We are live.
Yo!
I'm going to switch back to the meeting. Give me a moment. There. There we go. Hey, everybody. We're here.
What up?
Hi, Corey. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Let me
We're live.
check. Let me check. Okay. All right. Hang on a second. I'm logging on. Okay. I just got a text from Mike. He's getting into his Hotmail.
Sweet. Sweet.
Let's see. So hopefully he'll be popping up here soon. How are you? Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Good times. Good content.
Yeah.
You know, stuff that needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
Will be talked about. And this is a good way to get it out. So we're here. We're live.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me turn this down.
You know,
Okay. King Break Barrel. I'm pulling up my phone to look at so I can look at comments.
oh, like who's on? Can I see that or no? Or can only you?
I don't know if it's like scrolling up your screen or what there. Okay, Mike said he's out. He must be on Wi-Fi and he said it's working too slow. He's going to go inside and hook up. And it's going to be another 15 minutes. I'll just tell him that's fine. Whenever you can get on, man.
Yeah, because we're live right now, right?
Yep, we are.
Yeah, so we can chit chat a minute, and I'm gonna make sure that Tom is on. I'm texting him, but he's not paying attention. Tom, look at your text, bro. If you're on, Tom Gore, look at your phone. Look at your texts. I'm texting you. Can you see us? Hopefully he can. If you can see us, Tom, leave a message. Because they can leave messages, right? Or questions or whatever.
Yeah,
Ooh.
so in the chat there, it'll be going. Oh, hello.
Me? I'm here.
Blobbed out for a second there. Hold on. I'm getting the timer going. Anyway.
He just sent me a screenshot.
Oh, so he's watching.
Well, he showed me your face, your homepage.
Oh, you have to go to the live tab.
I did. I said we are live now. Click on tab again if he needs to, right?
He might have to go back and because it wouldn't have showed up over there. He'd have to like refresh it. So.
Right. So we'll see. Because I just minimized my screen and I just text him because he just texted me back. So it's cool. So we can burn some time into this. There's probably other people watching. How many people can you see how many people are on right now?
Let me see. No. Usually you can. When I do it when it's just two people, it's like I do it on my phone and I can see who all's there and all that kind of stuff. But that's why I'm just kind of looking on my phone here.
Tom said he's
wait,
on.
yes, I can. There's three people. Must be one. Tom. Hi, Tom. Thanks for the Avenger. I got it right back here, buddy. I appreciate
No, it's Tom Gore.
Oh, Tom Gore. Okay.
Vortex Tom.
Wrong Tom. Gotcha.
Right, they're both Toms. I know. We got these Tom guys in Michigan. You know, they love their air guns, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of you guys up there.
Yeah. We got some country here. You know, we got some hunting is big in Michigan for for a lot of our income for the state. So because we're a big whitetail state, so we have a lot of hunting.
Got the big
Canadian
bucks
geese
up there. Yeah.
What's that?
It's big corn-fed bucks up there. We got them I don't
Yeah,
think
I was
they're as big
actually,
here as they are there, but
I know. I've caught a whole group of bucks that were huge yesterday at my neighbor's house, and I took pictures of them on my phone. I'll have to share them with you later on. They're huge. It was like 20 bucks, dude. They all came out of the woods.
Hmm.
It was amazing.
big old
They were
bachelor group.
300 yards away though.
Yeah. Big bachelor group though. That's cool. Here in about another month or so, they'll start peeling off on by
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, they'll
So-
disappear. They'll be ghosts.
Yeah. They'll be looking for the ladies. They're getting ready to anyway.
Right, right,
So
right. So
Sorry.
yeah,
so one,
spring
two,
guns.
let's talk spring guns. You want to talk about that nice experience you had today,
Sure,
if you
sure.
want to?
So I knew I was coming on the show today. So you know, and I try to come home every day from work. You know, I work until sometimes 4 or 5, depending on when surgery gets done, when we get through the schedule. And still daylight here in Michigan, you know, in the evening. So I can come home and the sun's out right now, shining on the grass. It's perfect time to shoot. And usually the wind starts to die down as the sun will set in the evening. And so it's a great time to shoot, you know, and the birds will start coming back to nest for the evening or whatever you call that. You know, they come back. And so you have an opportunity to, you know, shoot some invasive parasitic blackbirds, if you will, of different species. And basically here I have a lot of cowbirds, which are the birds with the black body and the brown heads, and they have the short stubby beaks.
Yep.
You know, and those are for a lot of blunt force usage when it comes to either killing other baby birds in nests, because they lay their eggs in nests and have other people raise them. Or it's for smashing eggs, and they'll just smash the eggs and kill the other babies, you know, that are to be born. So a lot of birds to shoot. So I shoot a lot of birds. I shoot red squirrels. I shoot chipmunks. I shoot woodchucks that are out here. I'm chasing one that I cannot get, but someday.
I've seen several pictures of him
Yeah,
hanging
it's
around
like
Corey's
this.
property. Yeah.
He's looking around. But it's always when I don't have a gun, right? It's always when you're like, oh,
right.
I don't have a gun.
Yeah.
But today, I know it's coming on the show, so I kind of wanted to see if I could do something that would be worthy of explaining or exemplifying like what some capabilities are when you're shooting, like even like sub 20 foot-pounds. Because I've been doing a lot of that. Because ever since my young hang, which is right there in the box that it came in, with the gold filter right there on the wall.
Yep.
Ever since that thing took a crap on me and I lost the second stage piston, I think it's called, the high pressure piston.
Right. Yeah.
It blew and it wouldn't pump my up to 4,300, you know, or get to close to 300 bar. And I have a couple PCPs. I really love my Air Force Condor in 20 cal, an amazing gun. You know, just mind blowing, the accuracy and power and reliability, because it's single load, and it's just a really accurate, like, hunting gun. Basically, it's like a field gun, a utilitarian rifle. You know, it's not real pretty. I mean, I made it prettier with the Mad Dog custom stock. Thank you, Doug Russell. But love you, man. You make some good stuff. But once that compressor took a dump, and I just kind of was like, and I went and grabbed my HW98. You know, I've had that experience in the past, like this rifle here on the back wall. That's the original Sinrod Marauder synthetic stock. And I had a 25 with the Green Mountain barrel when I started air gunning in like 2019 or 18, somewhere around there. And I had issues with the Marauder, with it loading and jamming, and the probe was misaligned with the breech. So I ended up sending it back. Yeah, it was totally crazy. It was randomness. I talked to the Air Venturi technicians at Pyramid Air. They ended up having me send it back. It was a manufacturer defect. My heart broke. And so I said, this is too frustrating to me, because I was like Clark Griswold out in the woods trying to unjam my gun like he is with his Christmas lights. You know, like, and the squirrels are looking at me like, what's this fool doing?
Yeah, it's quite a show.
Get your act together. Right. So I got really like heartbroken over that and just kind of pissed and whatever and frustrated because I was new to air gunning. I didn't know that much. So I sent the gun back, got refunded, put that money towards a HW98 that I bought from Airguns of Arizona. And I thought, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to keep it simple. You know, the PCP thing is really awesome. I love them. They're very addicting, just like all air guns are. But the thing with it is, you know, you have these kind of caveats where your compressor can take a shit or something else,
Yep.
like, whatever it may be.
Very dependent on
Yes.
an air
And
source.
so, yes. And I'm okay with bottle guns. I got some bottle guns, like my Air Force bottles in the back. I have a Filipino bullpup right here in front of me that's got a carbon fiber bottle in the front. It's like a semi pup. I'm not the biggest fans of them because they remind me of paintball guns, and I was on a paintball team. You know, I have an old paintball gun up here on the shelf. My A5, Tippmann A5, I think it was. Yeah, Tippmann A5 that I modded out and stuff. And you know, I like air guns to look like more like rifles most of the time. Now, granted, I understand the carbon fiber bottle stuff, but for me, I'd shoot a lot offhand. You can't, I'm not saying you can't shoot those offhand, but it's just this whole rifleman mentality for me. Like this traditional, I prefer wood over synthetic, even though I have synthetic stocks like this one.
Right.
And my HW97 KT is a synthetic stock. I don't mind them because you can paint them, you can make them cool, you know, so you're not like wrecking beautiful wood or something. So it's easier to make them like field guns or to make them your own, you know, if you want like to have personality in your gun. So
Yeah.
I ended up just working the 98, man. That's 22 caliber, by the way. So I just started shooting at 98. And once I found out about Vortec products here in Michigan, Tom Gore, the genius that I've been so fortunate to meet. Thank you, Tom, for all you do. I love you, brother. You know, it's changing like the gun. It's like putting aftermarket parts in your hot rod car that make it better or something, or your Harley, you know, like I always say, air guns for me remind me of being a Harley technician, which I was before I work in surgery. But so, you know, you're dealing with a piston creating pressure. It's a whole pump thing, you know, it's power and all in transfers and all this stuff. So I thought I'd just keep it simple like that, you know, and just focus on being a good shooter and focus on accuracy and marksmanship was something that was not so easy to what do I want to say? It's not so easy to just get to the end so quickly because you're dealing with recoil and you're dealing with shot cycles and you're dealing with you know, those kind of things. And it's more of a daunting task. I guess I don't want to say daunting because that might be a little much, but it's far more difficult to shoot a spring gun accurately or gas ram. I'll call them single stroke pneumatics. Okay. Single stroke pneumatics.
Yep.
It's far harder to shoot those guns and to be accurate. And so when you become accurate and you put the time in, which sometimes it is extensive, and sometimes like I was telling you earlier on the phone, I miss a lot. I mean, I miss a lot when I'm out here in I have a shooting gallery, you know, 100-yard shooting gallery I have in my back acreage here behind the air gun shop. And I miss a lot, you know, but that's where I learned the gun, learned the round, learned the trajectory, learned the velocities at distance and the foot-pounds of energy and stuff before I go on the game, you know, because I want to be confident, right? Like you want to be effective and ethical, and you don't want to second guess, you know, just your gun or your capabilities with the gun. So is Mike on yet or no?
No, he said it would be like he had to like go inside and completely reset.
That's fine.
You must be tying.
I just get to rambling and I don't know how much time does it last.
Go for it, man. I don't know. We're on. My little timer here says we're like 11 minutes in. So
okay, cool.
And it'll go however long. It doesn't matter. So But I like the story here. People can get to know you and the background and what's leading up to some of the stuff we're going to be talking about here. So I think it's great.
Oh, totally.
Keep going.
Yeah. And so, you know, I mean, I fell in love with the spring gun and the simplicity of it. And I ended up like acquiring this mentality of like, okay, I got my PCP air guns and I got my spring guns and single stroke pneumatics. I do have, I have a nitro piston, you know, Benjamin Trail XL in 177 cal. So I have, you know, and I have the Hotsons, you know, that are Vortex, and they are okay,
Right.
as we all know.
We've had several conversations about, yeah.
Totally. And all of us, most of the people that have had experience with Vortex gas rams know that they're not reliable. Some people might get lucky and have really good ones that don't ever need a replacement, but I've replaced one. You've replaced them. You've done Mike Ellingsworth, his conversion kit for the nitro piston, the Crossman nitro piston. So, that tells its own story. So
I don't know what it is about them too. They're just not. They're pretty much almost seems like they're guaranteed to fail. I'm sure somebody out there's had one for 20 years and it's still fine, but
right.
It seems to be that they fail a lot, but they all do. I mean, even the Crossman Rams fail eventually, but
right. I think it's a really good, I think it's a really good example of you get what you pay for, because honestly, the Hot Sun spring guns are not expensive. I mean, now granted, to somebody else in some other country at some other socioeconomic status, that might be so, when I respect that. So I'm not trying to say, bro, you got a High Sun. Bullshit. You ain't gonna hit nothing. That's not the case. It's not the case, because you can. And the Sniper 125 is actually a decent gun. It's just got some things you have to deal with, which Mike is the master of, and he's figured some of that stuff out. And I guess it just depends on how much you're willing to work with and how much you're willing to pay for. Like my 98 or my HW97 KT or my R7. I have an R7 177 cal, basically the HW30. Those I don't have to worry about things like so much, just rip through them and shoot them. They're consistent. They're on good platforms. The triggers are amazing. The record trigger versus the Hot Sun. I don't have it here anymore. That's a Diana, but like that trigger is something we talked about too.
Yeah. Hey, Mike's here. Can you see Mike?
Oh, he's here.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you doing?
How are you, Mike?
Oh, Mike, what's up? Hey.
I finally made it.
You made it. Yeah.
Mike, this is Corey. Good friend of mine.
What's up, buddy?
Corey is my friend Mike.
Nice to meet you, Corey.
Pleased to meet you, Mike. Hey, first and foremost, let me be the humble man and say thank you for all the content that you've put out on your YouTube channel.
Yep.
I had a Hot Sun 125 Sniper here that I was putting a new Vortex Ram in, and that trigger assembly thought I was going to freak out on it. But I watched your videos, and I got my mind wrapped around it and was able to get through it and to bring it back all together. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your videos. And I ended up watching your whole channel. I just let it play on my TV in my Airgun shop here, and just watched all of them throughout the evening. And really appreciate all the stuff you're doing. It's stellar. I don't know where you're at with it now, Mike. Are you still doing stuff, or?
Yeah, I'm waiting for some spring wire to make a spring for the stupid Benjamin trail.
Yeah, he's been battling that thing. We were talking about that last time we talked.
Yeah, so because I have a Trail XL also, Mike. I bought on clearance from a sporting goods store here in 177 cal. It's the composite stock, and it's a good shooter. I ended up putting the Charlie DeTuna trigger in it because the trigger was so terabad, Thank you, Crossman. Right, like, come on, you guys can make Marauders, but you can't get your spring gun triggers to be something that's at least something we can work with.
Right.
Yeah, no, I've talked about that with other people, and we figured it's because, they have somebody making their stuff. They don't want to get sued. They're probably just making it where they're at with what they're doing. That's my guess.
Yeah.
And they just don't want to be responsible for something. I don't know. That's how it seems.
Well, I can subscribe to that, Mike, because one thing that Tom Gore told me, who's watching right now, a piece of advice he gave me when working on Airguns, he said, I just wouldn't mess with the triggers. And I was like, yeah, good point. Good point. It's just something I don't want to deal with. It's personal to the person that owns the gun. My own triggers, I like less, like a pound or less than a pound myself, because I shoot stuff that don't sit still very long,
Yeah, yeah. Well, as far as triggers, everybody feels the same way. It's until you get into the trigger and you understand what makes that thing work, and
Yep.
then you're okay with working on it. Because
Right.
my good friend Rich was the same way. He goes, I'm not touching triggers.
Yeah. Well,
No, he copied what I did. He's okay with it. So, you know,
right.
that's we all feel that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get
Yep.
so irritated, it's like you just start tearing into something till you find out one way or the other.
Yeah.
Well, right. I had that happen to me with an old Diana TO1 trigger, I think. It has the 3 ball bearings in it, correct? Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. And it gets kind of messy. And I pulled one of the triggers, someone was out of the back of the gun, and I was putting a Vortec kit in, and it just came apart, and it was stupid. And I was like, oh my God. And I told Tom at Vortec, I was like, hey man, this trigger came apart. And thankfully enough, you know, I have I'm intuitive when it comes to like stuff like that, because I was a Harley technician for many years. I went to school for Harley Davidson out in Phoenix, Arizona. I was certified. So I'm pretty good with that kind of stuff. So I was able to figure it out, but it was kind of tricky for a minute. You know, I was like, oh crap, man, this is what I didn't want to happen. But
yeah, I know.
You know, I figured it out.
That's
totally unintentional. Didn't want to.
And that's how you learn the hard way. Unfortunately, it's all the hard way, especially with the hats. Anything to do with the hats, and it's the hard way.
Exactly. You know, one thing I'll tell you, Mike, I got a buddy named Mike, actually. Funny enough, there's a lot of Mikes I know, apparently. And he lives probably about a half hour east of me towards Detroit. And he lives in a really nice neighborhood because he's an anesthesia provider in the operating room. So he does pretty well for himself and lives in a really nice neighborhood, but he's got a raccoon problem. So he wanted something simple, something safe, didn't want to spend a lot of money right now. And so I said, well, and he's a pretty big dude. He's kind of a bodybuilder. And so I know he can cock anything and not think it's ridiculous. So I was like, well, you want to try this 30 cal Hatsan? So we ended up, he wanted the thumb hole stock version. And so we ended up ordering him a thumb hole stock version from High Pressure Pneumatics. And, you know, I got it and I said, well, I'm going to go through it, make sure it's good, clean the barrel, all this stuff before I hand it over to him so that he can just point and shoot, you know, and be good with it. And I cocked it when I got it and it was terrible. It was grinding and stupid. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. And, you know, come to find out, obviously the forks at the end of the compression chamber where that bolt goes through, where there's that little teeny like locking nut or that locking screw, that Phillips one. That thing was torqued in so hard, like you'd swear it was an impact on an assembly line. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I remember on your video, you were talking about how you would ground down some of those drifts or whatever you want to call them, those chisels or whatever. And you send them to a guy to help them out and you're like, they're gone, you know? And so I ground one myself up, you know, I have a whole drawer of old screwdrivers. So I ground that up on the bench grinder over here behind me and made it fit just perfect. And I was shocking the bolt too, because, you know, obviously you learn that working on Harleys and that whole concept. And so I'm shocking the bolt, you know, and getting really good shocking on it. And I noticed it's in there tight. And I'm like, okay. And I got a crescent wrench and I put it on the flat part of the driver, we'll call it, you know. Yeah. And I'm trying to move it. I'm holding it down and I'm moving it slowly. And I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit. And it seriously would not move. I literally thought I was going to break the head of that bolt or that flathead bolt, we'll call it, in half. And it was tight in there. It wasn't sloppy at all, but it was so soft that my force on there being tight there was making the flathead actually split apart. Yeah. It was actually coming apart, and it got knurled on both ends because it literally was just so soft. I could feel it moving. And I thought the head was going to bust off or the whole top of it was just going to get like swirly on me, you know, and get stupid, like hot metal or something.
You got to have the barrel broken. You have to have the barrel broken open because that'll take the.
I did.
And then it's like you're leaning on the receiver with one arm. And yeah. Sometimes that's the way they
So
are.
I basically, oh yeah. And I remember you saying in your video, you were like, yeah, I don't know why these things are a real pain and I put up with it. I don't know. And you're talking about how like sometimes you fall in love with the platform and it's worthy of your time and your efforts, you know, and you don't have a lot of money invested. So it's not like something you're like, that's unacceptable, send it back right away. But even though I did do that with that 30 cal because I could not get that thing broke loose. And I just thought, you know what? I'm not going to have this thing get stupid on me and end up and trying to get this nut or this screw head bolt, whatever you want to call it, through bolt, the pivot, I'll call it the pivot bolt.
Yeah.
And I don't know if do they have those at Hot Sign USA? Do they have those in stock?
Well,
Right.
they have the diagrams, and then you got to pull the part number off the diagram.
Mm.
Then you got to submit your request, and then you got to wait about 5 days.
Right, yeah.
And then it's anybody's guess what you're going to get. At least it's always hit and miss. You just never know what they're going to have for you. You know, they get back to you and say, sorry, we don't have this, or we can get you that. So
Okay.
I have made pivot bolts because, you want everything to fit better than the factory, and I've made them before. But it's just the fact that you get tired of, like I made a jam, I made the pivot bolt, like when I did a Turkish Tomahawk project, I was like, this is getting to be ridiculous, I mean, it's just, but so it's almost like a challenge really at this point to extract the best out of something. And I guess that we do it for ourselves.
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
you can't have an R9 or a Vyrock. You ain't much you can do to that other than, tune it normally. But when you get a hatchet in your shop,
right.
Man, they'll teach you a lot though. They will teach you a lot.
Oh, totally. Totally. I mean,
it's just don't throw it in the trash first.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Jason can obviously, he can attest to that because, he's been through so many air guns, even before I met him, he's tearing into everything. Even the new stuff he gets, he's tearing into because he's got to know, but
yeah, I just
guarantee from all the, yeah, I mean, right. Because sooner or later you might have to deal with something, right?
Yeah.
Given the price point, basically, too, that doesn't play a factor because, I've never had to really do anything to my Virocks except for just tighten the screws up because it came loose. But I use blue Loctite, from the Harley shop. So, I became a blue Loctite guy long time ago because Harleys vibrate,
Yeah.
So Loctite,
Gotta have it. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the guns in my wheelhouse are the lower end, cheaper stuff to mid range.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like with Hotsons, there's a refinement there that's just not there. That a lot of them you can, if you have the capability and the time and the gumption to do it, you can make a pretty good gun out of them. So that's why, and I've just always been naturally, I want to know how things work. So is there something I can do? I take this gun apart. There's probably something could be smoothed out or something could be polished up a little bit, or I'm going to find some metal shavings in there somewhere. Probably,
probably
because of the those things are rushed through manufacturing, and it's all about getting the numbers and getting them sold. So, the refinement's not there. So I try to extract as much as I can out of my air guns. Sometimes projects just never work out. You know what I mean? It's just one letdown after another, and you end up doing something that I'm trying to think of a specific example on something that I've done that it's just totally hosed it. But like Mike said, that's how you learn.
Right. And that's just talking about just like the action of the gun, right? Like we were talking about the trigger assembly just earlier, and now we're talking basically about like the rest of the gun, right? But then there's the barrel, and then there's the crown, and you're like, oh God, is this a good one? You push pellets through, and you get a feel for the barrel, and you're rifling, and I was told once that there's like two kinds of barrels, and I forget who told me this. Oh no, it was somebody online, maybe I was chatting with, but they said there's like, basically they look at barrels as like, you have like straight smooth barrels that are pretty consistent bore from breech to muzzle, you know, to crown. And then you have ones that are kind of like barrel shaped barrels where you go and all of a sudden in the middle of it gets big. You have like this big opening spot where it's, you know, bigger, and all of a sudden, especially if you put your barrels in a vise, like I have soft jaws on my vise over here. And I remember I was over at Vortec at Tom's shop and we were going through Viroc barrels. We were checking those out because I felt like sometimes depending on the round, the sound of the gun cycling, you'd almost hear blow by. Because it would crack a little bit more, you know, and you could see on your Crony, the velocity wouldn't be like consistent throughout the tin. Sometimes because of head sizes, you know, you have those variables. And so I saw like, we got to start checking these Viroc barrels because everyone is so quick to say they're really accurate. They're really good barrels. And they are, for the most part, they are, but they do have a choke that kind of saves their ass. You know, you can have this barrel that, you know, can have these inconsistencies down the majority of the bore. And then when it hits that choke, the choke kind of makes sure that everything is before it comes out the muzzle. And okay, we got it squared away at the tail end of it. You know, it was maybe doing this down the bore or something, but
You know,
or like I said, what's that?
The Virocs are basically they're low powered guns, and where you have like your hats and magnums, they're in a whole different area. So in fact, I got a bulletin board in my other shop. It has what a Magnum gun needs. And so if IROC could have like a so-so pellet to bore fit, and because they're not past the range of being in an area of balance, and with that choke, it'll actually be fairly good. But I think all air guns really can use a good snug pellet to bore fit. I think the PCP guns are like that. They're
Definitely.
good, you know, they have those hammer forged barrels. But with a I always tell the guys, clean the bore first. Don't even try to do the pellet to bore test because the dirt's going to fool you. And then you'll know, hey, what's going on with this barrel of mine? And then at least you know, okay, is it working for you or against you? You know, you could have free fall in the middle, and then you know, a Magnum gun.
Oh my God! I've had that. I've had that where you're holding on. I'm holding on to I had a carbon fiber rod, you know, with a brass tip, real long one for like 177 long barrels and stuff. So, and that, like I said, when we were at Vortec, it literally, when you hit that opening, it would slip right through your hands and then hit, and it would stop right before the choke or something, you know. I had like 3 different Viroc barrels like that where they were cool in the beginning, cool down the middle, and then like maybe 8 inches before, or maybe 6 to 8 inches before the choke, that thing just slipped and fell, boom,
opened up,
free fall. And I was like, whoa. And I looked at Tom and we're like, whoa, you know, and so it's kind of something to be considered where I'm like, okay. But like, you know, I have some air arms. I have an air arms Galahad PCP, which is Lothar Walther barrels. And one thing I learned, and I was reading about air arms, is that when Lothar Walther makes their barrels, Air Arms says, oh, by the way, polish them for us too. So when I clean my Galahad barrel, you can feel how smooth and polished that barrel is when you're pulling that patch through.
Nice.
It's like there's no hanging up, you know, it's just like, it's like butter, you know. And when you're pushing a pellet through, it's consistent, you know.
Yeah.
But back to the hot sound barrels, the nice thing about those is like what Jay's doing is he's, you know, polishing barrels. He's telling me more often than not, I polished the barrel. I polished the barrel, you know, and which is good because I think that's a good skill set to learn, because you can't bank on every barrel you're getting to be completely awesome, right?
Yeah.
So
I have some little air guns that I'm working on and polishing. You know, I'm no expert at it by any means. I'm pretty new to it.
Right.
But I am seeing improved accuracy when I'm polishing barrels. So if I'm gaining something by it. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. And Mike really drove home on your channel. That was one thing too I wanted to let you know. That, and that's something I took away from one on your channel. You were really hammering home. Clean your barrels. Don't even do anything. And I remember you were saying too, when you get a gun, to clean the barrel, push around through the barrel, make sure you have a good barrel before you dig into the whole rest of the gun. Because if it ain't got a good barrel, it don't matter how good the cycling and the action or how much energy you can create, doesn't matter because the barrel sucks. And so you're not going to be able to hit anything or be consistent.
Yeah, and the Benjamin Trail Part 2, which I'm still working on, I'm waiting for the
Okay.
spring. But I mentioned the barrels. When you get like a hats on or a Chinese gun,
Mhm.
I tell everybody, I was telling them that Part 2 to, when you clean the bore, it's not a Virox. So when your patches start to come out clean, you don't stop there. So actually, I saturate the bore with the Goo Gone, let it sit. Just like if you're working on a motorcycle part or something,
Yeah.
And then, like, in other words, you ain't walking away until this thing's done right. And then when you get to, you use the bore brush, the brass brush.
Okay.
And then I explain how you use the brass brush, because most people think, oh, you can't use a brass brush. But anyway, and then what I do is you work it 20 times. That starts to break that crap up. Go through your soaked patches, then go back to the brass brush, and you'll see initially the patches come out clean, right? The first round, hey,
Right.
I'm good. You put that brass brush back in there and go another 20 rounds and put the wet patches back in, that's going to come out filthy dirty again.
Wow.
I learned that you just got to stick with something, and it's not a Virox, and everybody treats these guns like, well, it's all I had to do for my Virox. Well, Virox ain't made like this. Imported, those Turkish guns and Chinese guns, they have a lot more, going for them.
Right.
How was your day, Jason?
What's that?
How was your day?
I was okay. Okay, we got pretty well rained out this morning, so didn't really do a ton at work. How about yours?
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm obsessive with the barrels because I've been full before. And I was like, I know I cleaned this bore. What's going on? This thing's shooting all over the place. And that's after I rebarreled it, right? I mean, if you rebarreled a gun, I was like, I know I cleaned this bore out.
Right.
It's amazing, the stuff that, we're all susceptible for messing things up. So I had a barrel and I was like, I guess I didn't clean it good enough. Well, what it was, actually, I found out that the pellets I were using, the Crossman pellets at that particular time, were actually fouling out my barrel. And I know that's crazy, but I think it's when the COVID hit and when you couldn't get them. And I think the pellets I wound up getting was after they were catching up with the orders and COVID was gone. A lot of them had a lot of debris in them with the like little dust particles of lead and just fouling the barrels out. Then you look at the bottom of an empty tin and you can see the particles sitting right there.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they were playing that catch up at that period and everything was a rush. But basically my pellets were fouling out the darn bore. And so it's funny what you learn. Everything's the hard way. It's just nothing ever goes right the first time around. It's how it is in this trade. But you learn. It's just the way it is. Really.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. I've been super frustrated with stuff, and thought about, bailing on it all. But I don't know, man. Once you shoot quiet, accurate guns, it's really hard to get away from them, man. Because I got powder. What's that?
Is that they give you that power. So if you can get something all harnessed and honed in, even if it's rebarreled, and a lot of them have bad barrel block and fork configurations where they're too spread. You see them every now and then, they're not right. But then you get a good one. And if you get one and get it all honed in, man, you got something there,
You do.
Nice,
Yeah.
And actually, the trail that I'm working on, sadly, in part one, I said, this is my favorite break barrel Magnum. Just look at that bank bolt fit, right? Well, I didn't have my shop glasses on. It wasn't quite the bank bolt fit. So part two, I'm going through the video, I go, what the hell? So part one, we raved how good it was. Part two, we're finding out all the stuff that was wrong with it. Anyway, anyway, when I come out with that video, it'll show the different things that we found with the gun. But it actually can, that's another gun, it can be good. You know what the problem is? The problem is that people that make guns, like say Hatson, just because they make a gun don't mean they know anything about it. They know how to make it, but they don't know nothing about the damn air gun, right? Because nobody's concerned on the specs on the barrel bore. It's almost as if all you got to do is get the pea through the straw and we're good, guys. You know, where it says
Right.
this is not a toy. I think they think it's just a damn toy, because it's almost like you need to be an air gunner to know where you're missing and messing up, you know. And all they really care about is getting the gun out and making money, you know, and doing it cheaply. And it's the same thing with Crossman, I think, because Crossman, I would believe, has somebody making their stuff, right? I don't think they do it.
No.
And I said they put an order in. This is my guess. They put an order in. Now they got to sift through the order when it gets there and find out what's good, what's bad. But it's almost like they don't even know. You know, they don't say, hey, you know, you need to tighten up the specs on this barrel. And then the Crossman barrels are like hit and miss. It's like you can get really good barrels, you know, even like 177. And the guys will say, man, I could shoot a dime at, you know, 25 yards with this, with open sights, you know. And then you get one where the pellet to bore fit's not that good. And so it's just the way it is. I don't think half of these people, I think they're making money on having companies make stuff for them. And I don't think they know much about air guns other than we know how to sell them. I mean, it's like, you know, you need to be an air gunner to know, no, that's no good. You need to tighten this up, you know, the spec wise and barrel forks, or, you know, you don't see bank vault fits. So you got a lot of variations that go on in there, you know, when you shoot that Magnum, and that's what causes all your problems, you know.
Right. Yeah, like right now I'm shooting an HW80 in 20 cal. I just actually was shooting it in my yard. Like, I'm on 5 acres out here in the country. I got cornfields and stuff around me, hence the name, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's amazing out here. But I was just outside my yard before we got on today, and I was shooting it because I'm trying to shoot through this Vortex special sauce stuff that's being worked on, and Tom's coming out with some stuff that's really impressive, and it's pushing this what I want to call it, the stigma of, you know, spring guns should stay like below 50 yards and so forth and so on. We're him and I are working together on, I do basically all the beta testing for him and give my feedback and help him with just, you know, he'll ask me questions about what I think about certain stuff. And, you know, is it something that seems tangible or something that seems like it's going to be something where people would want it, you know, because I'm like the customer, you know. And fortunately he lives like 25 minutes away from me. So it's really cool. So we see each other quite a bit, and he comes over here and I go over there. And but basically this 80 is like the big Magnum of Virox, right? It's the 30mm tube, you know, it's the big gun. And this 20 is like, you know, it's not shooting like I mean, it's got power like a Magnum, but the cycling and everything, because even with the PG4s that Tom's already making, I have my own 80 20 cal that I bought off a buddy here in Michigan, and I put a PG4 in it, and because it actually had a tune in it from a guy I think you might know when I bought it, and it was Lone Wolf. He's dead now. He died.
You're talking about
White Fang.
Yeah,
White Fang?
RG, not OC Bolton. Okay. Yeah, White Fang, OC Bolton. Yeah, he was a good friend of mine.
Yeah. So I bought a gun that was tuned by him from a buddy of mine here in Michigan who's a Springer shooter and a PCP shooter. And he was selling off some guns because he inherited a muscle car, a Regal, from his father when his father just died. So he wanted to do some performance parts in the Regal, honor his father, make the car more awesome. So he sold it to me. I picked it up for $300, you know, it's banging deal. And I put a PG4 in it because that White Fang tune was a little bit violent, you know, still even. And I kept the parts that he made, the internals, because I just kept them there to respect him, and, you know, and someday maybe I might throw it in a gun or whatever. But I mean, it shoots better now, and you can be accurate with those Magnum Springers like I was today just before I got on, and I shot that sparrow, female sparrow, off of the power line 52 yards away in some wind. I held for wind, but I showed Jay the bird, and It was a pass through at 52 yards with a spring gun that's generating about 17, almost 18 foot-pounds with a 15.89 20 cal pellet.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
he was a good friend of mine, but I don't know anything about it, how he tunes a gun or works. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of guys claim that they're tuners and stuff.
Right.
I've seen some stuff out there that was actually shocking.
Really?
You call this tune?
Well, yeah,
You
there's
know.
a guy on YouTube who's gotten pretty popular, and he posts about every day, and it's almost exhaustive, but I kind of follow some guys like that because I want to see what their approach is to this kind of like, you know, making these spring guns better, you know. And this guy's doing like plastic pop bottle like sleeves for the guides to make the guides fit tighter, you know. He's like cutting up 20-ounce plastic bottles or something, I don't know. And it's okay, but it's, you know, I don't know about the sustainability of something like that, you know, through a duration of cycling the gun. I mean, it's, you know,
some of those guns have a lot of play, you know, in the piston area, and it just depends what gun it is. Generally, a Rock is pretty in a balanced zone, so it's very easy to take one of those and smooth it out if it's rough at all. Usually, it just needs a custom spring guide to help it out. But some of the other guns, like the Chinese guns, you know, guys were using sleeves to help. You know, I mean, I don't think that plastic ever gets deteriorated as long as it's the right type, you know. But there's a lot of things you can do to an air rifle. You know, you can you know, experiment and make the spring larger to fit the piston sleeve, the piston better, or you know, it all depends on what the thing is. Like even your HW80, a real nice gun. I never bought one because I thought, well, there's really no need for me to buy one for myself because I got all these powerful guns that are even stronger, you know?
Right.
I have an R9. I'm not parting with that.
No. And, you know, it's funny you say that because I'm glad you said the R9 because the R9 is actually Tom Gore's favorite gun.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah. And it's funny because he has really been focusing on the R9 95, whatever you want to call it, same gun. And it's his favorite gun because, it made sense to me because you have the 80, which is it's the bigger brother, the 30 mil tube, it's heavier, longer barrel, stuff like that. But the R9 and the 95, you know, it's like a really awesome field gun, you know. And even the stock itself, now granted, I have humongous hands. I have big hands, real wide here too. And not thick, but just big and long and wide, the palm. And so the R9 grip for me is, my pinky is a little short on it, but for most average people, that gun is even got an awesome stock to it. That's, you know, the stippling is good. It's carved out for your palm where, you know, it comes in for your palm there. You can hold your thumb up there. I mean, they're great guns, and the grip, it curves at the bottom, you know, of the pistol grip, kind of locks you in. I mean, they're great guns, and yeah, I mean, they're simple, you know, they're not an under lever, they're not a side lever, although I love both of those too, obviously. But yeah, it's just
I'll be right back, guys. I'll be back.
Okay. Yeah, Mike and I can chop it up, man. We can chop it up.
I call the R9. I call the R9 the Winchester of air guns.
Ooh.
You know, because you know how that was the favorite at one time in the West. Well, that's what I call the R9.
Okay.
Because of the R9, I don't want an R10. I mean, I don't want a H. What is it? The ones lower, the 50.
Oh, the 50. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I need that. I got an R9. I don't need to go that low. And a lot of guys like the 7. You know, they like those lower powered rifles, but the R9 for me is like where I want to stop. As far as power, I don't want to go any lower.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
I got mine. Mine has a thumb hole stock, and I still need to put it together. I bought a nice walnut thumb hole stock for it. And now I have a different .20 cal barrel that I got in from AOA, and that barrel, man, is shocking because the pellet to bore fit is almost like too tight. And then I was shocked. I was like, and then when you hit the choke, it's like, dude, this choke is like right there where it's too much.
Oh,
I figured at least the barrel's good.
you're right.
And so it remains to be seen how I'm going to deal with that as far as I'm going to definitely keep it. But I was shocked. The pellet to bore fit on that one from AOA was outstanding. I think it's actually, between you and me, a little on the too tight side.
Oh,
Yeah. But see, that's what these hats and guns need. They need good pellet to bore barrels and good snug pellet to bore fitting barrels. I mean, not where, you know, you're going to lose feet per second, but where it's consistently snug and smooth, you know, and that's going to work for you in those type of guns. But because I don't know too much about PCP rifles, but I'm pretty sure, like if you go to TJ and order one of his PCP rifles, TJ barrels, those are tapered hammer forged barrels, and they're tapered.
oh,
They actually get tighter as they go down. You know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, in the ID.
Yeah, and he'll tell you, he'll say, you know, you can't use this on a Springer because, you know, you're just going to lose feet per second.
Right.
Well, I actually ordered one once. I got one from his father before he retired, but that wasn't so much tapered like the ones that the son's making now. He actually made that for me, the father, in .25 cal. But
okay.
You know. Okay. But it's a good bore. You know, the father, you need to be able to say, here's the pellet I'm using. He would make you the bore to fit that pellet. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty
so let me
cool.
ask you this, since we're talking about bores and rounds, what is your favorite caliber?
Well, if you got a Magnum gun, I like 22 for the Magnums and 25 cal for the Magnums. Because, you know, for me, I wouldn't want to go more than 25 because it's just a waste for me. It is. I don't do hunting, you know, but the 25 gives you the extra bang and the smack, and they're accurate. And then the 22 is, I wouldn't touch anything in a 177 in a Magnum gun.
Oh,
it's too much. The bore's too small and it chokes everything up.
You're right about that. You're right about that.
You got your swept volume and your shot cycle, and then the bore size in 177 is a little too small. And so if you jump to 25 cal, you'll see, hey, you know what? My shot cycle is a lot smoother when I use that big bore. If you have two of the same guns, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's because the bore size works better with that swept volume.
Right.
And a lot of guys really don't know. They're just shooting cans and having fun, and they don't see any problems because they don't really know. They don't know the difference. But for me, I'm always looking for smooth. I'm working for everything to work together as a team, you know, instead of just shooting something and, you know, I'm looking for consistency, you know.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Always consistency. If it's not repeatable, then you're just getting lucky, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're just getting lucky, and that sucks because you can't be confident with that on game, or even if you were just trying to win a competition or whatever you're doing, right? Like, I don't care if it's a friendly one with your buddies or something in the backyard.
Yeah.
But you're right about that 177, because Tom and I talked about that at his shop, because for me, 20 cal is my favorite round for small game and stuff like that. And I do like 25 also though. And I like 177, 20, 22, 25. I like them all, basically. My favorite though is 20, because it's just like that. It's that sweet. I'm like today, you know, I did 52 yards with the 15.89, and I didn't hold over as much as I would need to hold over my optic for a 22 cal, you know?
Yeah. If I go to rebarrel, I had a Turkish Tomahawk, which is like a Hatchet 95, but it was Turkish Tomahawk, which came out a couple years back. And I rebarreled one in 20 cal, and when I sold it, the guy absolutely loved it. And for a gun like that in that power range, the 20 cal was perfect. 20 cal for the R10s and R9s and the HW95s and whatever, that's fine too. But
yeah,
when you get past in that big Magnum round, the bigger power, like the Hatchet power, you know, it becomes a little bit of a different story.
It does.
They're very powerful, and they need the right size bore to make everything come together better.
They
You
do.
know.
Good. And that's what I was saying about we were talking in at Tom's shop. We were talking about that 80. So with me like in 20 cal, I wanted a 20 cal and a 97 because it's
Mhm.
a shorter stroke, a different kind of platform versus like the 95. And so I
Yeah.
wanted one in 97. I wanted one in the 95 configuration. Then I wanted one just because of the different bore sizes too. And I wanted one in the 30 so I could compare the three of them. And we were talking about the not the 30, but the 30 millimeters, what I mean to say, in the HW80. And that was one thing that Tom had told me when I first started chatting with him and getting to know him and his approach and stuff. And he was telling me the thing about those 80s with those 30 millimeter tubes, because they're so big, which goes along with what you're saying, is that the 177 is too small, like the transfer port to get all that air that's coming through that chamber, that big 30 millimeter chamber, to go through that teeny 177 transfer port hole and then down that barrel. Like you're saying, it just gets kind of jammed up more or less. Like, it's not as smooth.
The thing about it is too, is the bore size is part of the equation in an air rifle. Especially when you get into the higher powered guns, you know what I mean? Especially the magnums, like the real magnums. Like an HW is definitely a magnum, but it's not really the big magnum. You know what I mean? That's a magnum in Vostock size. But you go to the Hatson now, you're in a different lane, but the bore size means everything. It's part of the equation. I mean, for everything to come together, right?
Right.
So you have to sweat by them, right? And then you have your piston seal, and whatever goes on in there really is counting on what type of seal is in there. And then goes to the next thing, which is obviously the portholes are standard, right? Typically, they're standard size portholes. But you'll see now it comes down to the bore and the bore opening and the pellet to bore fit.
Right.
Because, you know what I mean? Now, obviously, if you have the right size bore, but it's a bad one or a mediocre bore, that's the stuff that makes everything, waver, So if you have a decent pellet to bore fit, now you have something working for you, and the bore size and the sweat product, And in fact, this Human Trail, I wound up machining the button off the piston so I could put my own seal on it because I wasn't happy with the factory seal. And then it was it. What was that? I was just like, this is ridiculous.
Tom has done that for a couple of my buddies. One of them, he bought an FWB, the newer version of the 124 Sport,
Yeah.
And dogs barking. And then I have a buddy also in Michigan who collects a bunch of guns, and he got a couple of those CZ guns. There's Slavias, CZ Slavias.
Yeah.
Tom machined the piston so that he could just put vortex seals on them, and made like spring kits and stuff for them, and because he can do that. And it's a much better gun, because the old pistons are just kind of, it's better to have the newer style pistons with like newer material because that stuff's progressing and getting better. And I was going to ask you, speaking of pistons and piston seals, because on your channel you talked about honing the bores, didn't you talk about honing the bores on some of your channel, I think, at some point?
You mean the receiver tubes?
Yeah. I'm calling it the bore, like the cylinder bore. I'm talking Harleys again. Sorry. Yeah.
It's funny, there's so many ways to go around it. It always comes down to number one, what gun is it? If it's a Byrock, you want to go into that a little bit different than you do a Hatson, right?
Right.
And I had a lot of guys get in touch with me, and they'll actually hone the receiver tube in the air chamber and polish it, And I'm like, if you want to do that, you go right ahead. You can do that. But the idea with a Hatson magnet is you need that piston seal to fit that tube as best as possible. So I try to tell guys, try not to hone the darn thing, because typical seals today really are just barely making it. And half the time, to be very honest with you, after a little while, their seal edges will burn off because the gun's so powerful. In fact, I got a good friend of mine named Rich Shar, and Tom knows Rich very well, fairly well anyway. And
I
Rich
think
is
he spoke.
Huh?
I think he spoke of his name. Yes. Yes.
He developed these proper piston seals for these hats and guns. So whenever I get one or Rich gets one, we put them in, and it's a game changer.
Really?
We don't advertise it or talk about it or share, but if a guy wants it in their gun, they're going to have to send the gun to us, because we can't sell it to them and have them put it in, because it's just different. It's not one of those type of seals. So I almost took one over to Jason once, for he didn't want it.
Oh,
But,
no.
You know, the thing is that if you're selling stuff, you got to have people that can actually put it in the gun.
Right.
And, you know, they're going to complain, and that's where this stuff gets messed up. Everything has to be made for these other guys who are going to bitch and complain. But Rich is the proper seal that turns the Magnum, because the Magnum, here's the thing, and I'm not trying to get all funny about it, but these hats and guns they're in a zone where there's no balance. It's strictly made for power.
Right.
And everybody says, well, if you want a Magnum, you're going to have to learn to live with that. And, you know, good luck on your scope, you know.
Right.
But the thing is, Rich has made the seal so it works with the gun finally, and the seal edge won't burn off. So that's part one of the equation. Now we have finally something working with that stupid gun that's made for power. It's going in the direction of honing it in. So the seal edge don't burn off. You're getting better feet per second because you're not losing anything. You know, your typical seal burns off, right, to some degree, and then it levels off. So you lose something in the air chamber swept by him. Well, with his seals, you ain't losing anything, basically. It's not going to do that. But then it comes down to part two, and that's what kind of board you got and what size is the board, because that's part of the equation. I've had so many guns where it's like, okay, this thing is so close to being really honed in, but I got a stupid bad barrel. Now I got to go and get another bore from Lola Walter. And whenever I order one of them, I always have them test the bore for me, because they'll just pull it off the shelf and ship it to you. And then you clean it and do the felt the bore test. And you're like, no, this ain't going to work, because not all their stuff is good either. You know, stuff's made and the QE, you know, slips by, and it's just the way manufacturing is. But they're really good out here, Lola Walter. They'll do the pellet the bore test for you.
Really?
In fact, yeah, I had a 20 cal that I ordered from them, and they didn't have the pellets, so they were going to order them. They were just out of stock on the pellets. I said, you guys know how to do the pellet the bore test. You got to do it on a slight angle and do it real slow, you know. So he found me a consistent bore, and that was great. But I had them where what happens is a lot of times, say you get a 22-inch barrel, right? And you're going to put it on your gun, but you're only going to use maybe 17 at the most of it. So you'll find out after you clean it what part of that bore is good, what part of the bore is the best bore.
Right.
So right. And then if you have a part of the bore where, okay, this end here is a little on the looser side, this end's all good over here. Well, then the looser side, I say for the machine work end, because your machine work will tighten up a bore too, depending upon how you machine it.
Yeah, you were telling me that, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So in other words, if you have a real good barrel and you're going to do the machine work for the barrel block area, you got to be very, or else you'll over tighten that bore in that area by machining it. And now when your pellet goes through that area, it's been squeezed. Because you over machined, you took too much meat away at one time, and believe it or not, barrels are sensitive, and it tightens up the bore.
I can wrap my mind around that. I can wrap my mind around that concept. Yeah.
Yeah. Then it drops out of the barrel block area, and it's in the rest of the bore, and now the rest of the bore is a little too big for the pellet.
Right.
So you learn how to, you know, that's learning. In fact, one time, the last barrel that I had, I actually went in harder to snug up that part of the bore because it was oversized, and I left that for the breech work. And it's like a remnant barrel that I had laying around, and it was 20 cal, I believe. And
20 cal forever.
Yeah, no, I love 20 cal, absolutely. But in a Magnum gun like the Hatsons, no. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be 22, 25.
Sure.
I'm not saying it won't work, but you know.
Right. Right. So let me ask you this, speaking of barrels and bores again, now I'm going to, expound upon that. And do you feel in your experience of shooting spring guns, or we'll call them single stroke pneumatics, we want to add gas rams and spring guns together. Okay. Whether they're brake barrels, under levers, or whatever configuration, do you feel like the longer barrel is better for the spring gun, or the shorter barrels is better for the spring gun? Because I know like Viroc will offer like a 12-inch with a brake on the end, like a a cocking assist, like a weight, the tapered weight kind of thing they offer. Some of them are threaded now. You can have threaded and put on like the thread on the half 20 Viroc suppressor, which works really well. It's a really renowned suppressor, but they make that, you can buy those configurations. So they're offering 12-inch barrels, then they're offering like 15-inch barrels, whatever it ends up being, I think. And then they have like the longer, like even like 19-inch barrels, like my own personal HW80 that's over at Vortec now. That gun has a 19-inch barrel, and it's almost ridiculous. Like to me, so what's your take on the longer barrel versus the shorter barrel when it comes to spring guns? And are they necessary? Do they shoot better? Do you feel like the longer barrel slows the velocity down? Like, what do you think?
Well,
What's your experience?
If you're in the Viroc realm, like the Viroc realm with that power range, you can get by probably with a 13-inch barrel, because they are not passing they're still balanced, and the power level's really only up so far.
Right.
When you get into the big boy magnums, and I would say even a Benjamin Trail, that's pushing 900 feet per second in .22. So, technically the shortest I would want to do in a gun like that has that much power would be probably, and you could probably go a little less, but I would say for me, 14 inches. Because the barrel is part of the equation. So if the bore length's in there, that needs to work with the shot cycle, and especially if the bore fit is good. That's really what makes all that stuff come together. Otherwise, it's like if you have a bad barrel and the pellet's just flying out of the barrel, basically it's not working with the shot cycle. You're losing what everything needs to work together for. But anyway, I would say it depends on the power of the gun. If it's a Viroc, even an Air Arms Pro Elite, I think that was around, what was that, 13 inches? So those power, and that pushes around 800 feet per second. So that power of a gun, of the minimum bore, I would say I wouldn't go. You could probably go to 13, but I wouldn't. I would stay at 14 and then play it safe. And that's short enough where it's not oversized. And then even if we say, let's jump to a Hatchin real quick, right? Okay. Or the Benjamin Trail. 17 is actually a little bit too much, but you could probably get away with a little shorter. Just as long as the length of that barrel is working with the power of that gun to produce everything to come together. For you know what I'm saying? Otherwise, you're losing out on what the barrel could be giving you with your swept volume. You know what I mean? Because I know I'm repeating myself. No, but it's stress it enough. The barrel bore and the bore size with the power of the gun all works together, and most guys don't have a clue. Right. As far to get back to your question, if you have a big, powerful gun, I would say even 16 inches, and then you're doing fine. Let's say you're 125 or 135 hats. 16 inches, everything's working together still. It's not extra long for no reason at all. And even a barrel length basically has a certain point where nothing's happening anymore. It's already happened. So you don't need to go to 20 or 19 inches. Like a diameter 34, I could never understand why they got such a long barrel on a gun like that.
I got one right here. I got one in a composite stock.
Now that I know how to do a block on a slanted barrel block, I think by the 34, I'm going to make a .20 cal out of it down the road. I'm in the comments here, guys. That's what I'm trying to keep up with them a little bit. I do have. So we got
Ken Brown, he wanted to thank you for the 20 cal barrel. Or what did he get from you? I got to go
From
back
me?
to Mike.
Oh.
The LGU
You know Ken Brown, Mike?
and the Slavia. I gotta put my glasses on, guys. I can't see.
It's okay. I'm over 42, man. I work
Okay.
cheaters too.
Mike, thank you
Right here.
for the LGU and the Slavia 631, brother. So,
Oh, Mike, did he get a Slavia from you?
and thank you, Mike, for the 20 caliber barrel for the HW95.
Oh, who was that?
Ken Brown.
Ken Brown.
Yeah, Ken, that's right.
Now he's in the Philippines right now.
Ken is?
Yep.
Yeah. He's a good brother of mine. I met him in 2017 at the Southern Michigan Airgun range.
Yeah.
At his range at a field target competition.
It was so funny because Ken called me up and he was looking for the 20 cal barrel, and I had it sitting in my cabinet for about a year and a half. And the next day I called him up. I go, I'll sell it to you. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'll find one. And all of a sudden, it was like hen's teeth, But anyway, I was able to take care of them and made somebody happy. And I got the one I got from AOA came later on. That was actually I was shocked about how the bore was.
Oh yeah, the tight one. The tight one?
Yeah. I'll probably lose feet per second, but I bet you that thing's gonna be super accurate, man.
Right. Hey, that's cool. That's cool.
Jason is.
So barrel length, back to that. What's that?
I was just want to know, is Ken a friend of Jason too?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like,
it's a small world. How about that?
it is. It's these are long distance relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I got friends all over the place, what goes through the air gunning world, which I love. Because I've met some great people like you guys, and it's just nice that it's nice, man.
Yeah.
So that's why these guys in the comments are my friends too, and they have things they want to say. So, but guys that are commenting, it's hard for me to keep up with both. So I'm doing my best here. So when you guys go on, well, Timmy does. If you're not, you probably don't know Mike who Timmy is, but he's follows everybody's channels. He comments. He's a great guy. Mm-hmm. So he did have a question here, and I don't know if we can give him any kind of an answer or not, but he says, I have a Benjamin Rushmore in 177 that won't hold a 14-inch group at 15 yards. Any ideas what could be wrong? And yes, the barrel is clean. I've tried 10 different pellets and weights in it.
I don't know the gun, Mike. Do you know the gun?
I don't either.
Well, I'm not too sure if he didn't try to contact me on my channel already. The name sounds familiar and the gun sounds familiar.
It does.
Timmy, is that a nitro gun or a spring gun?
And go over it and check it out, because the seal has to be right, or that's always going to fluctuate on what you're getting. As far as and then how is it put together right? What's going on with the breech seal?
So let me ask you about this, Mike, because this might help G-Man too. Is it G-Man you said, Jay?
No, Timmy.
Oh, Timmy, excuse me, not G-Man, but Timmy. Okay, sorry, Timmy. But also I wonder on some of these guns, because some of the guns I've worked on, Mike, and I've put Vortex kits in and stuff like that, the piston seal is slamming the end of the chamber, and it's literally got an indentation of the transfer port on the face of the piston seal. And the reason I'm talking about that is because this accuracy, like this 14 inches that Timmy's talking about, and the barrel lengths on some of those brake barrels that are producing decent power, if that piston is slamming, I'm always thinking like that power has to transfer through the block, right? Down the barrel. And if you got a really long barrel, that thing's got to be doing this. It's got to be whipping. You got to have some harmonics in there. If that piston is slamming so hard, it's sending it.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so we know maybe he's got something on the end that's clipping the pellets. It's, a 14-inch.
Totally.
There's definitely a lot of variables. I mean, there could be a ton of different things going on there.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was curious if Mike, if you've experienced that, like with barrel lengths, if you've been like, this thing has got to be whipping because the rest of the gun is copacetic and kosher and it's all cohesive and there's all these marriages that are created, you know, with surfaces and like you said, piston to bore, piston seals, you know, and the last thing that can be the issue is maybe barrel whip, because I think I've experienced quite a bit of barrel whip on various spring guns because the barrels are so long and you're dealing with like 15, 16 millimeters in diameter, you know what I'm saying?
Sure, sure. No, absolutely. You know, you can have that. You've got that wave of energy going through the darn thing. And if you put something on slow motion, you probably would see it. You know,
right.
I'm pretty sure somebody's already done that already, you know, with the slow motion camera and showing you what, you know, because you got barrel harmonics and you got barrel energy and how it looks.
Right.
You know, so absolutely, you know, sure.
Yeah. So sometimes I think the barrels on spring guns are too long. Like, and I think that's for one of the reasons. Like, I think they make them longer, in my opinion, just because for cocking ease, you know what I'm saying? The longer the lever, the easier to cock the gun. If things, you know, way out here versus close here, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't hear about those kind of issues with say like, you know, TX200 or HW97s. They got real short barrels on it. TX200's got like a 9-inch barrel on the Hunter carbine, you know?
Huh, interesting.
And it's, you know, that thing shoots field target up to 55 yards and it's shooting apertures that are, you know, whatever it is at 55 yards. Tyler Patner can tell you that off the top of his head, but he talked about that once. I asked him about apertures at different distances in field target, because those are kind of the goals I try to meet with the spring gun so that I know that I'm like within the realm of field target accuracy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely the guns can have too long of a barrel.
Yeah.
You know, you have, if you can afford to work with it. What I have done in the past, it you know, it takes guns, I've ruined them finding things out.
Yeah.
Yep. Been there.
I've experimented, you know, I've bored out, I've actually bored, you're gonna laugh at this one. Let's be honest, I bored out a barrel just so the door's further out, just to see what's going to happen. Did it get, so I bored out the portholes and changed porthole sizes, you know, and those lower power you get away with swept, because their swept volume's different, right? They got smaller size swept volume areas, you know, and then now they got shorter barrels and they're accurate. They don't have much recoil compared to the, you know, the brake barrel guns. They're all in lanes, you know what I mean? And people need to realize that if you're going to work on this, you need to be in that lane, because that doesn't work in this lane. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're working on barrel, it's not straight across the board with air guns. And a lot of guys think they know everything. It's like, well, if you step out of your comfort zone and get into something like a hatching where it's a little rough to deal with, maybe you'll learn a little bit more, you know, but they're just, everything's in a different lane, you know?
Right. And, no, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. You know, like you have even like, I mean, and I don't know where BSA falls in all this, because you have like, you know, Weihrauch, Diana, the German stuff, and then you have like England and the Air Arms and BSA, which they have amazing barrels, right? We all know the Hammer Forge one is a pretty awesome barrel. When you get, you know, more often than not, you have awesome barrels with BSA. That's why, you know, people love some of the Gammo stuff. That's like because they have the BSA barrels in them, you know what I'm saying? And they're not probably the top tier BSA cold forged barrels, but they're still that type of good manufacturing barrels. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. The Gammas are good guns. I think it's the name. I don't know why they ever call them a Gamma, because it makes it sound so cheap.
Yeah, it does.
I think they're very good. And I mean, those rotary clips they came out with when you break the barrel back and then you got 10 shots. I never wanted one of them in the beginning, and I guess they finally got the kinks out, because it seems like everybody's liking them now.
Gammo has definitely mastered that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They've got that figured out. Everybody else is coming out with some version of it, but as far as reliability and
Yeah.
stuff, I do believe that, you know, it's
Mhm.
they're the best here.
Triggers, right?
Yeah,
Nice
you know, honestly, I agree with you on that. That CAT trigger is way better than the Crossman trigger, way better than even the Hot Sun Quattro.
Yeah.
That's the spring gun Quattro, which is not the same Quattro as their PCP Quattro.
They
But
give you a 5-year warranty on them Gammo guns. I mean, on a lot of them.
oh yeah, yeah.
I've had them where the barrels were nice. You know, so I had one where the breech seal was getting nipped. Well, that was a fix. And then stuff like that happens, you know.
Sure.
But I think really good with the Gammo guns because of the mag power and how they're made.
Right. Right. Yeah, I just hate that whole, like, I have a big cat, you know, and 177 I bought, it was a refurb at a sporting goods store. They bought a bunch of refurbs from Hot Sun and they were selling Hot Suns. They blew them out for $75. So I picked one up because honestly, I bought the gun because I really liked the stock ergonomics on the big cat. And I was like, I can work with the rest of this gun and let's see if I can make it shoot decent, you know, and it's okay. It's okay. I think I'm dealing with some barrel stuff, honestly, on this particular one, because I went through the whole thing. That was like, I think my first brake barrel I ever went through. And I even like did the, what do I want to call it? In the Harley world, we call it the dingle balling, which is pretty much just resurfacing in the X and Y axis and they're cross hatching in the cylinder bore, you know. I just did it with a, like a Brillo pad, you know, an SOS pad on a stick and just basically hand did it just lightly to knock if there was any inconsistencies or burrs off, basically, you know. It shoots okay. I don't know, it's got more, someday I'll mess with it more to get it better, but I'm kind of dealing with all this other stuff with, you know, these German guns and Vortec, and, you know, I'm really into that now. So I kind of, you know, but like I said, I still like the Hot Sun 125, you know. It was an experience to see that in comparison, you know, like you were saying, the different lanes of these spring guns, you know, and gas rams. But I think that, you know, whatever lane you're in, the moral of the story is the spring gun can be something that, you know, people kind of throw aside real quickly, which kind of breaks my heart because, you know, like today, I would call that shot I took on that Sparrow at 52 yards PCP accuracy. You know, I mean, a Sparrow, man, an English Sparrow at 52 yards, you know, with a 20 cal HW80, you know, it's pretty cool. So,
that is awesome.
you know, that helps you to kind of, it is, you know, and it helps. And I was stoked about that. And it helps you to kind of like not get so discouraged with the spring gun that you just go quickly jump into the PCP market, which a lot of people do. And, you know, I feel like there's a lot of spring guns that are sitting in gun cabinets or safes or in gun rooms or wherever they have them. Some of them might be just thrown in a barn, who knows?
Right.
But, you know, they tend to get forgotten about and underrated. You know, I think that you can do a lot more with a spring gun than I think what is currently like assumed, I guess I'll call it. I mean, what's the distance that you shoot spring guns, Mike? Like,
All I have here is around 30 to 35 yards.
Okay.
And I don't believe it or not, I don't get to shoot a lot. I'm always backed up with stuff that I'm involved in. I've got a list that I haven't even been able to touch yet. And then, or else I'll get somebody's gun that I'm working on. I'm waiting for parts or something.
Okay.
I don't, believe it or not, I don't shoot a whole lot. And, and even when I go to test somebody's gun, I know that sounds terrible, but sometimes, you know, ask Tom how often does he get to shoot? You know, he's always there making stuff. But it's almost like it comes with the nature of the business. You know, you're up to here with all this stuff, and you don't even get that to go out there. But the top, 30, 35 for me, and then I have my 18 for testing, 18 yards.
Yep.
But honestly, with my shop out there, I made a shooting table, a fold down shooting table, and I shoot right through the window. You know, the window is open. But if I would have known I was going to do that, I would have made that window for that when I was building the darn thing. And so now I'm up on a stool. It's just not copacetic to get the best results. Because I'll tell you what, I've done a lot of guns where I'll shoot to see what the groups are like. I'll adjust the bore after I rebarreled it so that it's honed in with the zeroed out scope. And then when I send it to the owner, he gets better groups than I get. I didn't know I could do that. So I'm finding out it's me, it's my setup, it's just
Okay.
the way. But
Right.
yeah, I get busy. Sometimes I have to walk away from everything because you can get burned out in this business. The mods and the ideas and the projects. I've done it maybe 3 times already where I'll shut the shop down. I don't want to think about air guns.
Right. Well,
and then you come back, you're all refreshed.
yeah.
You're all feeling good now, And it was good to know that you're not the only one. It happens to a lot of us,
Oh, it totally does. I mean, I've gone into the shop at Vortec to either change guns or bring different ammo or whatever it is, or optics or whatever Tom and I are messing around with, and I'll go in there. Sometimes he looks like he's got bedhead. He looks like Albert Einstein there, like the mad scientist, like, because he's just like going crazy doing all this stuff. And, he's awake at night and he's thinking about stuff and developing and, thinking about engineering things and then getting it on the machine and getting the program set and stuff. And so, yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. You're absolutely right with like all the stuff you can get into alongside of people calling Vortec and wanting Tom to tune their guns. He's like, I'm trying to run the machine too and do this. And he's one man, so
yeah.
Fortunately, he's been gracious enough to let me into his life because we live close, and I went and sought him out for my 98 PG4 kit. Actually, no, I take that back. It was PG3 at the time, Gen 3, or the 3rd iteration of the PG, if you will. And we just hit it off, and he could tell that I had some passion for spring guns and the challenge and just the nature of the simplicity of it, really, and that makes it the whole challenge. Because PCPs, like I said, I have a handful of PCPs. I got into it pretty heavy until that pump died back over right there.
Right.
And I was kind of like, well, I got these other guns, I'm just going to utilize those. And then I fell into this, and I'm just like, this will make me stay interested in air gunning longer, which I hate to say because it's not like I'm not interested in it, but you can get bored shooting PCPs because they damn near shoot themselves sometimes, like you become so accurate. It's like, okay, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. Yep. Okay. Where with the spring gun, you can go out and kick ass one day and then go out the other day and you're is this even mine? Like, and can't hit shit,
The thing about the Springer guns, a lot of guys that love the Springers are because they love the mechanics of the Springer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you bring the barrel back and you're feeling all what's going on, and it's just the turn on. And that's why
it totally is.
Yeah, you get one and you make custom spring guides for it and go in there and hone it in. It's just wonderful.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, and I'll say this probably till the day I'm dead, but it's just like, it's the same experience we would have when we would like put, mods and do big bore kits and stuff on Harleys, like you take something that's a really good platform and then you add stuff to it, whether it's sourced from the aftermarket or whether it's sourced from the manufacturer or whether it's sourced from just some one-off random, idea that you had in your own shop with your own lathe, and next thing you know, you got this really kick-ass rifle or this really kick-ass Harley, and you're like, man, this is it. Like, I'm good. It's very gratifying, very gratifying.
Yeah.
And I know that Jace had a lot of that gratifying, tuning and working and, smoothing out cycles and making things copacetic, as we're speaking of, because, Jay's done that with tons of guns. I've talked to him where he's turned a gun that was, or he thought about maybe getting rid of, and then all of a sudden was able to make it like, ooh, wait a minute, this is something I might want to keep,
I've got some I'm working on now that I've got the standard deviation is like 3 and I think string shred of 7 over like 45 shots, and it's that makes me happy. I mean, that's that moment, like Corey's talking about, the gratification, all that work and everything that you put in, and to see it come together
Mhm.
like that, it's like, it just, I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
Because there's a lot of frustration that goes with it too. You know what I mean? But
Oh,
when
totally.
you finally hit the mark on something, you know, and Corey and I were just talking about how much actual shooting and stuff we do. I think just recently, like, how much time do we spend shooting versus working on stuff? You know what I mean?
Right.
and
Right.
and there's just, and at that moment too, over that last week or two, I've really been focusing a lot of energy on these particular guns that I don't really want to say too much about them because I'm going to try to do something with them. But
Sure.
uh and it made me think about that, and I was like, hadn't hardly shot at all. I just been up here every night after work,
Mm.
spending a few hours, couple 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours, just
Mhm.
geeking out on it, trying to get it to do what I want it to do. But
Right.
and we talked about the process then too, and just how much I love the process. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's frustrating, but the
Mhm.
process of it, using my brain and getting things to come together, it's just, I love it.
Yeah. Like Mike, you were saying that sometimes you got to walk away. Like, I got to give a lot of credit to Tom, man. He's been, in the business for like 87, 89, I think, something like that. 87 or 89. Sorry, Tom. I know it's one of the 2 years, brother. But he goes out and he runs the trail. He'll go trail running on a wooded trail. He'll go out and just, not think about as little as he can, just to clear his mind, because it just gets so inundated with ideas and machining and testing. And like you're saying, the most that Tom shoots is probably like you do, Mike, is over the crony when you're tuning guns and going for
Yeah.
velocities and stuff. You
Yep.
just sit there all day and just cock shoot over the crony. Like, you're not out very often shooting game or at a shooting gallery, shooting steel spinner targets or whatever it may be, or even paper, just for grouping fun or whatever. But I did take Tom when I first met him. It was funny because he talked about one of his favorite things to do was to shoot pigeons at a dairy farm. And so he was working on an R9, obviously, and he was doing stuff to it. And we had just found those Norma pellets from Sweden. They make powder burner ammunition, Norma does, but they make really good pellets too, which have a mixture of antimony, which is probably, more likely tin in their lead in their pellet recipe, if you will. And they're very accurate pellets, and they tend to shoot really well out of a lot of spring guns in 177, 22, 25. And their weights are like 9.1. So they have like these odd weights, which is really cool, because with spring guns, you kind of have this set power once you tune it. And so the way that you can mess around with velocities and foot-pounds of energy is pellet weight, right? Like, I can shoot this 9.1 grain or this 10.34 grain or this 8.18 grain, and you got all these weights to mess with, so you can see which works best for the gun at distance, whatever your application is. But yeah, we were shooting those Norma pellets, and I took him to a dairy farm over here in Michigan, because Ken Brown has went out and got a lot of dairy farm permissions. And he's like, hey, I got some buddies, that like to shoot air guns. Can they come out too? And the farmer's like, yeah, sure. And so I get to come out, and my buddy Jim, who I bought that 20 cal R80 or that HW80 from, he comes out, and we get to shoot a bunch of birds on different dairy farms all along this route, or this, I think it's like 60 or 66, some like highway, rural highway kind of thing. And Tom, I saw Tom shoot. I saw him shoot off the top of a silo with that R9, shooting that Norma. I think it was the 17.6 or 9 grain, because they make a 15 grain too. I saw him hit a pigeon. It was like 72 yards of that R9, because I was watching through my optic, rested on top of the vehicle, and that thing fell backwards, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, no way, and after that, I'm all in. I'm all in on these spring guns now. I'm all in. You got me convinced, man. You got me convinced. I'm yours, Tom. Abuse me. I'll abuse whatever you need me to abuse. Please. I need to do that, because that's pretty awesome. Once again,
is Tom going to show you how to work some of that equipment he has over there?
I don't know. Tom, if you're listening, I would hope someday, because Tom's 64 years old.
Oh, okay. I'm 66.
Okay. But I mean, he's a stud, like he is. He takes really good care of himself, and he's got like a chewed up bar in the shop and a TRX, and he's doing all kinds of stuff. He stays in good shape because he works long hours in that shop. He's in there like 7 a.m, and I'll be calling him when I'm getting out of surgery at work, and I'm in the locker room changing, and it'd be like 5, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go. He'll be like going home to get dinner. Sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna be here for a couple more hours, because he's like, I really want to work on this project I got going on. So he'll do long hours, man. And so he tries to eat right and take care of himself so he can just keep grinding away, because it's like all here,
Yeah.
And I've been out here in the shop here where I've literally have laid down on this bench right here with my arms and been like almost falling asleep, because I'm like almost insane now. Like, I'm like, I got to get this. Like, I'm almost there. I'm working through this, and I just want to be able to, go out with the gun and be like, and, take really good shots and have really good consistency and be like, it was all worth it, man. It was all, and it's coming out of a spring gun, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
There's a lot of bragging to do about that, and especially in today's market with like PCP guns and, a lot of the big name stuff like Day State FX and all these other brands that come out with these really high tech guns and stuff, which are very cool. I love them. I think that's amazing. But, you get a lot of focus on that. And there's not so much focus on spring guns and that whole realm. And it's almost like this thing where the guy's like, yeah, spring guns. Yeah. And then I'm like, but I saw a guy shoot a pigeon off the top of a silo at 72 yards. Like, what do you mean? Just, yeah.
Spring guns, I know that everybody's gravitating towards the PCP, but the spring guns ain't going anywhere. I don't care. They're still, guys are going to like the fact that you can just break the barrel back. It's accurate and it's well made. And that's what Vyrock gives you. So, I mean,
Right.
It's so enjoyable to have a beautifully made gun like that,
Oh yeah. And, I dubbed my spring guns probably after I had that compressor experience and I went over the spring guns. One day it just came to me. I'm like, how would I describe this experience? And for me, it's like, I just called it like the grab and go. I grab the gun, I grab the pellets, and I go. Like, I don't have to worry about like, where my air pressure is on my gun, or does my tank need to be filled, or where am I going, and thinking ahead about, okay, am I going to be out at this farm for hours? So I better make sure my tank is topped off. I got all this stuff squared away, and or if the gun leaks, which sucks too. Sometimes you'll end up having like a breech seal blowout, or something else happens, like your regulator fails on the gun or something. And now you're just kind of, well, okay,
Dead in the water.
Good thing I brought more guns, because I have to go get backup,
Forgot your fill probe, something like that.
Oh my God, the fill probe, dude. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, the nemesis of PCP, as everybody will tell you in the world, is the fill probe. Please do the Foster fitting, please.
Yeah. Well, Mike's got a PCP.
You do?
Yeah, and what did he tell me about it last time we were talking? And he said, yeah, I watch it leak, or just check it like once in a while and see how much air it's lost. You know what I mean? That's about as much as he does with it. Oh, and there it is right there.
What PCP is that, Mike?
That's the Avenger.
Oh, the
Woodstock version.
Okay, I just sold the one I had in 25 cal. I just sold it to a buddy who's a local guy I used to ride Harleys with here in Michigan, and he's got 10 acres. And I just sold it to him with a nice Monstrum first focal plane optic on it, and I gave him a bipod and a bunch of stuff with it, because I don't know, I probably got about eight or so PCPs maybe, and I just wasn't. It's 25 cal, and I liked it a lot. It shot a lot of pellets really well, but it's just too long of a gun for me, because I'm typically pointing up in a tree and shooting birds. So I like carbines, and semi-pup kind of stuff, bullpup kind of stuff, shorter. I like shorter guns. Typically, I don't like to go over 40 inches, basically. Like I like to be able to take my arm and touch the end of the barrel, basically.
Yeah.
You know, just for
Mhm.
offhand, because I do a lot of offhand or window door jam shooting. Because all through this
Yeah.
building here, this outbuilding, I have my whole yards around it. So I go through all these doorways and stuff all the time with guns, and I've smacked barrels on door jams and been like, oh, there goes my POI, you know, on PCPs if they didn't have a really good barrel band or something to hold them in place, you
Mhm.
know. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just some of the stuff that I've dealt with PCPs. But it's interesting you got a Avenger, because I've looked at the Avenger X series coming out, that semi-pup one they got that's got the carbon bottle on it. So I don't know, maybe,
Yeah, I know
maybe, but
he's been kind of kicking that around. I know we've talked about that a little bit.
yeah, but you know, if I like today, you know, too, I'm like, but do I need it? I don't know if I need it, because I'm shooting this, I'm shooting over 50 yards, you know, with these spring guns now. And even my 97, I've shot my 97 at 88 yards, and I shot it at 92 yards at a soup can that was on a T-post. And I've had pass through a soup can on a T-post at 92 yards with a 13.73 grain JSB 20 cal pellet coming out of that 97.
I think that speaks to, and it's something that you and I have talked about, and I think Mike and I have talked about too a little bit, is in the air gun world right now about power. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Everybody wants the most powerful thing they can get their hands on. And
Right.
when you can see results out of that, you know, out of spring guns that are 16, 17 foot-pound guns,
Yep.
and at 92 yards, it's still carrying enough energy to pass through a soup can.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's incredible.
and I know guys want to hunt big
Incredible.
game now with air guns or whatever, but
Mhm.
a lot of us, I mean, I like a powerful air gun too, but it just
Right.
proves that you don't have to have that to do those. You can't use that as an excuse of why, well, I can't hit that at
Right.
88 yards because
Well, that's like
it
today
doesn't
when I
have enough,
shot that
doesn't have
sparrow.
enough power.
Right. Yeah, like I was saying with that sparrow too, you know, like I showed you that sparrow day. I went and grabbed it back out of the field because when I was talking, you know, I was like, wait a minute. Let me see if I even had a pass through on that at said distance, right?
Yes.
So I went and grabbed it, and lo and behold, as we both saw the bird, which is, where'd I put it? Oh, it's over there. It's passed through right here, went out here, and that's, you know, that's at 52 yards, you know, with a 15.89 traveling at about 678, somewhere 675, you know, and it's just, that's mind blowing to me. Like I had a pass through, like there was still energy enough to go through the game at that distance with this spring gun, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, do I need more? Not really, because it did the job. I mean, maybe if I was shooting a woodchuck or something that was a little bit, you know, more dense and thicker, I mean, sure, I get that. That's when we bring out the Hot Sun 125s and maybe put slugs in them or something. Have you tried
Yeah.
slugs at all, Mike?
No, I haven't.
No?
No. I basically just stick with the standards. I
Yeah.
don't see a whole lot. You know, my friend was trying to get me to get a 30 cal. I said, dude, it's not going to happen.
No,
You know,
I don't blame you, Mike, because like I said, I've had that 30 cal, that, what is it, 135? Is that the 30 cal?
130, or if it's a synthetic, wasn't it? So the
It was
130S.
synthetic. Yeah, S, yeah, the 130 or 135S, whatever it is. I had that here, and I took it actually over to Vortec and let Tom shoot it, because I was like, hey man, check this out, just so he could see, you know, because he's got Webley Patriots and like this one right here. I got this Mike, you talked about these guns. This version of the Patriot that's if you look on the block, it's made in Turkey.
right.
Yeah, and it's got the Quattro trigger and stuff, you know, but yeah, this thing is, I told Tom I'm gonna bring it back because I don't even like shooting it. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just, I can't be.
You gotta know what to do with them. You know, you gotta you got to go through them and then know, you know, like I said, my friend Rich Shar's got good seals now, and
Yeah.
they help smooth the gun down, and you get
Well,
your full power too.
the gun shoots good. It's producing good power, but I think the barrel's too long and it's whipping.
Yeah,
I really do.
absolutely. You can have that, sure.
Yeah, I think it's whipping, and it's just like, what's the point, man? It's like, I don't care about the gun now because I can't be accurate with it, you know, because I mean, it's got a long barrel on it.
How was the pellet to bore fit on that particular gun?
It's decent. It's decent.
Oh, that's
Yep.
good.
Yeah,
That's-
it's decent. Like, but you know, I don't know. You know, it's just, I mean, I've been shooting this 97 with a shorter barrel, and I've been shooting like, you know, those 12-inch Viroc barrels that you can get, you know, and just like that's on that 80, you know, and I don't know. I just feel like there's less whip. I mean, I can't really put it down to anything because these are tuned guns. These are, you know, these got Vortex magic in them, you know, that PG4s and smooth out stuff, and you know, the triggers are good. So I'm not like, and that's the thing too, is like, you know, you're fighting this Quattro trigger that breaks like you're trying to snap a number 2 pencil with your finger or something,
Right.
you know?
Right.
I mean, unless you go through them.
You definitely got to go through the Quadro trigger and set it up, because the little teeny spring that they give you that works that top sear,
Yeah.
it's just being in there alone is too stiff. So a lot of times they came out with one that's a little bit lighter than the older ones. And then I used to be able to use that spring, but I would trim it. That way, just by having it being in the trigger alone isn't causing too much tension. So, but the old days, they were so stiff, you had to throw them out. And then I was putting springs in there because they were just too stiff. But nowadays, I think they're doable. You just got to trim them. So when they're in there, it's not creating too much tension. And then you can use your little teeny Allen wrench to give you exactly what you need. You just need some trigger spring.
Right.
Otherwise, that sear won't engage, you know, when you go to
Right.
cockpit. But,
No, I haven't polished any of the things either. I just put like some, you know, I slapped on a little bit of this. I got some high Molly, you know, I got some, I think it's 70, is it 70%?
I imagine.
Yeah.
I
Something like that.
I don't polish them either anymore. I don't polish them anymore. I just take the wire brush and the Dremel, and I get rid of all the gray stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I don't bother polishing. I mean, that was in the beginning when I was really getting into the gun. I was trying to do my best with it. And then after a while, you realize you don't really need to go that far.
No.
Because when you're all done, you're going to wind up having this sear engagement so close, ready to fire. That's the only way you can get a decent trigger out of that gun. Is that the trigger's there, ready to fire, but it's still safe. And obviously not have the tension on the for your trigger to be tight. You know, so I mean, that's pretty much what that trigger comes down to. But you know, those hats and guns, I've had them where I had to sandpaper the inside of the housing because it was rough. You know, you just never know what they're going to give you. You know.
True. So, what about Diana's for you then? Any Diana love?
I love the Diana guns. I have an RWS 48, and I have I've wound up, the last one I got was the Diana 34, because my vision of the 34 was, I used to remember it was one of my early guns when I got into air gun, and I didn't like the fact that it was too long.
Yeah, oh, God.
Because it was one of my early guns, I was reminiscent, I was fond of it. So I wanted to get another one. I finally got one, like the original version in a T06. But my idea with it is now I can do a slanted breech block rebarrel, because I did it with the Chinese gun. There's a video on that. And I thought, well, now that I did it with that gun, I can go to my Diana and put a damn, excuse my language, my own barrel on there, right? 20 cal,
Yeah.
and my own barrel length. And then I can maybe find a sweet spot for that whole entire gun and change the whole gun around.
Right,
Get
right.
a nice custom spring guide on it, right? I'm
Yeah.
old fashioned. I like eternal guides. You know, obviously Tom has his kits, and I like the old internal spring guides for me.
Mm.
You know, because I can make them to fit that spring, and basically you can adjust it for what you want out of that gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
we can custom make them that way. But anyway,
Right,
that's
right. Yeah, no,
I got the 34 back in the shop. You know, they changed that now. They don't have them anymore. You can get them, but they're hard to find. But now they have
yes.
one where you can buy a different barrel for it, and
Yeah,
I
they
think,
went aren't they modular now? They went modular with it a little bit.
yeah, and then you can get the gas ram conversion for them. Like, just give me the original. We don't need to go with the swapping barrels and because now, you know, I don't like that idea. But I guess they're thinking in terms of trying to make the sale, right? So.
Right. Well, I mean, you have PCP platforms that are, you know, modular like that, with like FX Dreamline, or even just like
Okay.
the Impact is modular, the Crown is modular. Now you have, like, you know,
Hudson
the Crown,
Hydra.
you can shoot arrows off the Crown. You know, you can shoot different calibers and stuff. So I could see where maybe they're following like a trend, like a PCP trend or something, or like, you know, Jay, like your Hydra, you know, same thing. You can, the Hydra, you can take
The module swaps, and yeah.
Now, do I think guys are going to do that with spring guns? I don't know how many guys would do that with spring guns. And Mike, I don't know if you've heard of guys talking about it or not, when you're talking to customers or people that you know within your social circles of shooting spring guns. But it just seems like that, like you're saying, we're talking about before, once you get that whole thing all balanced and you do all that work, I don't know if I'd want to break that balance by throwing on different barrels and having to reconfigure that again, you know, or maybe have it just suck and it doesn't shoot good, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
I have the other thing I have is an RWS 350. And I think that barrel's too long also.
Yeah.
But and the power needs to be kind of a little bit detuned. But that's a beautiful gun. I love the stock on it, and it just looks like a rifle, you know, it looks wonderful.
Right. You know, and that's like a big thing for me is, you know, like even this silhouette guy on my first banner I made right here, he's shooting offhand. And it's always been like this whole like rifleman thing for me, you know, like, because it's the hardest thing to do. I mean, it's easy to have, I'm not going to say easy because the PCP guys will beat me up. Forgive me, PCP guys. I mean, it's easier to shoot a gun really well when you got a big bipod, it's weighted down, it's locked in.
Yep.
You know, there's hardly as much. There is harmonics because they make barrel tuners for PCP, so there's harmonics, but there's not as much as like with the spring guns having to generate power, where the PCP is just opening a gate and letting air out that's already pre-charged in a reservoir, you know. So you don't have something that's trying to create power as it goes through, and it's doing this, and there's all this stuff going on, and you know, and even at the end of the cycle too, you know, you don't have the like so much of like a slam, you know, versus the Springer stuff. So like it's, you know, it's harder to master, like I was saying earlier, you know, and it just keeps you driven to shoot better longer, I think. And if you transfer that over to shooting PCPs, and I don't know if you've experienced this, Mike, like say if you're shooting spring guns and then you grab that Avenger of yours and you're like, oh man, this thing drives itself, you know?
Exactly.
Like,
it shoots itself.
yeah, I mean, and that's not even like a $4,000 impact that's got like a $500 bipod and a monopod in the back and weights and all these things, right? Like that's just an Avenger. And you're like, man, this thing is amazing. Like, it's just, look at this, you know, you can hit anything with it, you know, versus holding the spring, because the hold sensitivity too, right? And I'm not taking away hold sensitivity from PCPs either, because they have that too. But I remember when I first started out, and I don't know, Mike, if you've watched any of Steve Shalley's videos, you know, from AEAC.
No.
I really admire him. He's in Florida. You know, he's an ex-cop and does full-time reviews now and stuff. He's the big guy on the
Is that the
on
detective
film.
guy?
What's that?
No, JC's an ex-cop too, but no, he's talking about a different
No,
guy.
not JC. Steve Shalley in Florida. I don't know where
Okay.
JC's out of. Where is JC out of, Jay?
You know, it's a you always see like palm trees and stuff in his yard or whatever they are. So it's, and he might be in Florida too, or
Oh,
California.
maybe.
I'm
Well,
not sure
no.
exactly.
Okay, well, back to what I was saying about Steve Shalley is that, you know, I really admire him because he's so thorough in his reviews and stuff, and he uses that lab radar. And that really was like, I was like, okay, tell me more about 25, 50, 75, 100. Let's talk about that. But he was the one that I learned, like, even just how hard you squeeze the grip, you know, in the pistol grip of the spring guns, you know, will change, you know, your point of impact, you know, and can, you know, some like to be held tighter or looser, you know, there's that whole thing too. So I don't know, man, it just keeps me driven to shoot consistently better all the time, because like I said, it's not all the time I do, you know.
Right.
So I'll go through half a tin of pellets out here in the yard just trying to hit that smallest spinner on like my dueling tree. I got a dueling tree that has like bigger ones, and then it goes to smaller ones up top, or ones you stick in the side of the tree that you screw in, and they got 3 of them. One's bigger, it's and a middle one, and then a smaller one. And sometimes I don't want to end my evening. I don't want to go inside back in here to the shop and put the gun away and go in the house until I've hit that small one. I'm like, oh, hell
Yeah.
no. Come on,
Right.
man. I'm not
You'll
ending
be-
my evening like this.
You'll be thinking about it, you know, like,
Yeah, no
"Ah."
way.
You know,
I'll
that
be in
next
here-
shot was probably the one.
Right. Yeah. Or that, you know, like walking halfway and be like, you know what? I'm gonna get one more time. One more time.
Yeah, you know what? I
One more
didn't
time.
try, you know, sitting a
Right.
certain way or something like that, you know.
Yeah. Because I noticed that with this 80 that I was shooting today, and when I pushed it out to 35 yards out here on my rolling target stand I got, just to check the zero before I was going to go out and shoot a bird. And it's interesting because that gun is so much more accurate. My grouping is so much better at 35 yards with artillery hold versus holding it one hand. And like some guys will, like Tom, sometimes he does this where he'll lay 2 fingers just on the receiver, you know, up on the front of the bag and shoot that way. You know, like I try different ways to hold the spring gun, and the artillery hold off the bench tends to be more accurate, you know. And like today with that 80, that was something that was definitely like, I was like, okay, this thing is way better grouping with artillery hold versus just, you know, laying my hand up front or under or whatever I was doing with my other hand. So, you know, I love that stuff. You know, it's like this whole, from the beginning, like you say, Mike, you know, checking your barrel and then going through the whole rest of the process to make this thing shoot awesome. And then now once you got the gun set, then now it's all about you getting set with the gun, like your influence on the gun.
Yeah, and
You
the
know?
stringers, you have to spend time with them,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So if you went from your 80 to your 95, it's a little different, right? You got to,
Yeah.
you know, but it's cool, you know, it's, I love the springers.
I do too.
And the PCP, I haven't even shot this Avenger yet, but I know I'm going to do it one day. And the Avenger had such a great review.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Ted Holdover did one years back, and man, I said, and it's inexpensive, right? So
They are the platform. I've got 2 of these bull pups now, and they're just the features that they have, the ergonomics, you know, the adjustability, for what you're paying for one of them. I still think they're kind of ugly, but but they're, you know, they're not the most aesthetically pleasing gun in the world. But
no,
what Corey's the one that kind of got me into like bullpups. I was always like, nah, I don't like that. I like the big long rifle. And then he started talking to me about like when you are out pesting at a farm or something like that. And, you know, I've got the first thing I got that was kind of a bullpup type thing was my Crawl Knight in 22. which is it's a semi pup, and it's a beautiful, beautiful gun, ridiculously accurate. That gun is
Mhm.
um, all my crawls are great guns, but
Yeah.
it's heavy. You know, I had a friend that was having me do some pest control for him pretty regular this spring and summer, and I was lugging that thing around with me out there, and it just wears you out.
Yeah.
And so, but I did like how it was. I'm not hanging clear out here with a big long rifle,
Right.
a lot more maneuverable.
Mhm.
And then I go to like a full-on bullpup, and these are nice and light. You know, you can go all day. So for like a utilitarian type application, which is what
Yep.
is why I bought them. And
Mhm.
I bought the 25 from High Pressure Pneumatics, which is this one, and then I've got one in 177 that I got from Pyramid Air. It was a refurb, and there's
Mhm.
actually a couple funny stories about that gun. It was like missing parts, but Pyramid Air
Oh,
took
yeah, the
care of me on it.
regulator.
The regulator was gone, and then there was like a bleed screw that wasn't in the
Where's the-
gun.
What's
They sent it to me with none of
regulator?
that stuff in it, you know. So, but Pyramid Air, I've had great experiences with them. They took care of me.
Me
But that
too.
thing is like, they're both just lasers. I mean, just like
Mhm.
that thing is shooting the 177 shooting JSB knockout 13.43s. I can't remember how fast it's shooting them, but I'm shooting dimes at 50 yards with it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I just love it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just made me, when you're talking about your Avenger, it just made me think of that platform and what you're getting for your money. So
Totally. It is without a doubt. Even the trigger, Mike, like the triggers on those. One thing that blew my mind about it, because like I said, I just sold mine, but it was a Gen 1, is that the trigger you can adjust like the actual reach. Like you can get the blade to go forward and reverse in the trigger guard for your reach, which I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. The only thing I think that sucks about the trigger, in my opinion, because my fingers, is I like the Marauder trigger. I like a straighter blade kind of thing, not those Avengers. It's really curved. So it's almost like you're locked into that tight C curve, if you will. And so, I really try to focus on pulling this trigger straight back to me. I don't want to be deviating one way or the other. I want to pull it straight back. And Steve Shalley, when he reviewed that gun, which Mike, I would definitely recommend going on YouTube and watching Steve Shalley stuff on. He did a couple different videos on the Avengers, like different tune setups, like low power, mid range, high power. And then he did like his first initial review of it. So there's a lot of information you can learn from Steve about that platform. But he said with that trigger, he's like, he was kind of like figured he would cant his hand up. So he was pulling more up on the trigger, and then you pull like sideways on the trigger, and then you try down at the bottom too. And his best results were from more on the upside of it. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Just something to think about when you're shooting it someday when all your spring guns break and you can't cock them no more or something.
Well, believe it or not, I just bought a Shin-Shung. Because my good friend likes them. He has several of those. And I thought to myself, down the road, I'm going to be with somebody, and it'd be nice if we both have PCP guns to shoot.
Yeah.
And so I wanted it, and I got it. It's not here yet. It's on its way, but it's an older Shin-Shung 22 cal. And when I first saw the gun, I thought that's kind of freaky looking. It's got 3 tiers, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But it does have the underlever and the way it's shaped. And my good friend really likes them. I think he has about 3 of them, him and his son, Rich, my good friend Rich Shar. And I thought, Rich likes that gun. I'm going to get it. And I got one. And
that's cool.
I thought that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they definitely have their place, and I don't hate on them. It's just, compressors. I mean, it's kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. I mean, but if you buy, those GX compressors are really reliable. I know that Bill Rule from Target Forge, he's on YouTube. He did the Young Hang Hot Rod Shop. He's out of California. He makes steel targets and stuff. Amazing guy, super smart. He did a whole series on those GX compressors. that's, if I could do it all over again, I was going to spend that kind of money on a compressor versus spend like $1,000 on like an Omega. I would go for the GX versus the Young Hangs, because you don't have to have they don't have a water jacket on to keep it cool. And, I think they just run smoother and they're easier to service. Not that the Young Hang's not easy to service, but these GX ones, those ones are really easy to service. And Bill out of California, he is the, what do I want to call it? He got together with the manufacturer, and he's like the USA like parts provider, and I think also the warranty service guy, I think, if I remember correctly. I could be totally wrong in the warranty part, but I know Bill liked them so much and found out that they're so simple and easy to maintain if they need maintenance, which they probably will at some point. They do, but he needed a whole series on those things, and I was really impressed. And so if you do get a compressor mic, go for like the GX over the Young Hang, in my experience.
Well, I have the Young Hang.
Yeah. Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do. And because I looked at all the videos and what to do, and I thought, well, that's the route I'm going. And of course, a couple years later, they came out with stuff that you're talking about.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I look at the Young Hang that'll work for me for my needs. I can make it.
They do, and mine's a 2019 manufacturing date on the badge, and it ran great. And and I was good to it because I'm not trying to burn it up and so I run it for 15 minutes, and I actually was running antifreeze 50-50 premix antifreeze because it's cooler than water, and I don't want to have both big chunks of ice in it when it's summertime in Michigan here and it gets warm and you're out in the shop, and I got the doors open and a breeze coming through, but still, and fans and whatever. But I don't want to get too crazy on it. But the antifreeze, the 50-50 premix, seemed to keep it just a little bit lower than the water would, which is cool. I know some guys use that water wetter stuff too, right? Water wetter, is that what it's called? Yeah.
Water, yeah.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
Were you using it just to fill your gun, or were you using it to fill your bottle?
Both, but I didn't fill the bottle from the bottom of it. It was just to top it off when it would come down, because I have this carbon fiber bottle, the 300 bar one, and then down here I have actually I bought this one from Ken Brown when I first met him, and it's the scuba tank. It's aluminum.
Yeah.
Got it from my buddy Ken Brown. Thank you, Ken Brown. Weighs a ton, and it's 200 bar. But I was topping those two off, and like I said, I was really slow with it. I didn't run it too hard, and because I knew I was like, you get $300 compressor, and you're going up to 4,000, 300 bar, 4,350 psi, I think is what it is.
Yep.
And that thing is going to be just hot.
That's working hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think it's got I think it's just got cheap material for the high pressure piston seals. You know what I'm saying? They just,
I've got one too. And I've got a kit in my cabinet over here that has it's a new piston rod, the lower piston, and then the high pressure piston. It's all one piece, new seals on it, because it's going to happen. It's going to go bad. Right. I just want to have the parts on hand, because again, I'm really working on PCPs a lot lately, and going through a lot of air. I mean, I'm topping off tanks pretty regular. So when I'm filling, sometimes I'm kind of worried. I'm like, man, how much longer is this thing going to go before something, you know what I mean? Cause it is just a 300. Actually, I found mine I was watching the prices on them on eBay, and they go up and down every day. It's really, I mean, it's crazy how much they can fluctuate in a day or two. And I snagged mine for $185.
Wow.
eBay. Yeah. So I almost bought two of them. I was like, you should just buy them back. Because I've heard guys say that don't just buy one of those, buy two of them. Don't buy one, buy two. Just you got a parts one because you can't. But the parts are a lot more available now for them too. But I really like mine. But I've got it's not a mobile setup at all. There's a I got a pretty crazy setup. I know Corey's seen pictures
Yeah.
of it and stuff. Coolers
That's like an
and
erector
fans
set
and
setup, man. That's got all kinds of things. It's
yeah,
like
and I
a
got
whole,
air conditioner on it and all this stuff. And I'm just
it's like
really,
a progressive thing. It grows every year.
yeah. But yeah, so there is a lot that goes to it. And like the GX ones I remember watching, Target Forge, watching his videos on it because he
Yeah.
had the Young Hang hot rod shop
Yes.
and really going a long way with those. And then he got into these GX pumps and they're like, he's like, I don't even use tanks anymore. He said, this thing just goes with me everywhere I go.
Right.
You fill your gun with it and shoot. And you don't have to worry
Mhm.
about filling tanks or the bigger compressors or anything like that anymore. So you're not filling tanks with them, but
Right.
with them GX ones, I think they're such a good little pump that you don't even have to worry about it anymore. So sorry, it's supposed to be about spring guns. Sorry.
No, that's totally fine. Yeah, it's all air guns, Mike's the one that brought up the PCPs. He's got an Avenger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like the Avenger. It's simple and it's inexpensive, and as long as
It'll
it's
do you right. It'll do you right. It'll do you right. It'll do you right. You'll be happy with it.
Yeah.
I did want to go back and ask you, Mike, about the HW30s and like the R7s. Do you were saying earlier that it's a popular gun. I know it's a popular gun from what I see in my viewings on social circles and just through guys that are calling like Tom and stuff like that, and they like the 30, they like the 177 or the 22. I know that you can get them in 20 cal at AOA right now in the composite stock, the HW 30s, and I just didn't know like what you thought about those, and if you are hearing a lot of guys that want a lot of that stuff done to them, like in your realm, in your social circles.
Well, basically, there are guys that like those lower powered guns. They're like punching out holes in a hole.
Right.
But for me, the HW95 is the power limit. I don't want to go lower than that. Now, for my case, it doesn't feel like I'm shooting anything then. You know what I mean? I got to have that gun feel. Like a gun. And so the 50s, HW50s and the 30s, they just don't have much going for them as far as it doesn't turn me on.
Okay.
But there are guys that absolutely love those things, and in fact, you'll see those old Beeman R7s, and older stock. People love those things.
Yeah, I got one right here. I got one right here.
Yeah,
that I'm
basically, you get nice spring guides for them, give them a nice fresh tune-up and new piston seals. But I never cared for the lower powered guns. I did think in the back of my mind, well, you're going to get old one day and you might just want to have that R7 or HW30. And you can say, well, I could still do it.
Yeah. There's Mike over here. He's like 80, pulling out. God, I refuse. Oh, man. Well, I mean, and the reason I asked too is because just the overall length on them, is just really conducive, for, small spaces, like, and I find that the caveat about the 30 is definitely the stock, right? Or the R7. And this one I'm kind of tearing into it, and I'm gonna refinish the stock, but like, if you look at my hand and you look at this pistol grip right here, it's like, I feel like I stole my little brother's gun or something, like It's made for a 10-year-old or something, and so while the platform is really awesome, the stock leaves a little bit to be desired, and so now not everyone has to deal with these issues like I do, because their statures are different, and they're like, oh, I'm just fine on this. This is totally cool. But for me, it's been kind of like a mission to figure out how to get this caveat of the R7 or HW30 to be remedied. And so I got some plans. Maybe I'm going to try some stuff. I got some ideas for this, but I definitely feel like, you know, the aftermarket stocks are also a good answer for that, because there's a lot of them out there, especially from England, that you can get that are made. I know Steve Concord makes stocks too. Have you ever had any Steve stocks?
No, I have the couple stocks from the UK.
Okay.
You know, they
Are-
make really nice stocks. I got the thumb holes from the UK.
Are they the CS stocks from the UK, custom stocks?
Yeah, custom stocks.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. What a slamming deal those things are. Are they not a really good value?
Yeah. And I was very fortunate. The walnut ones came out very nice for me.
Oh, you got good grain?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I got
Okay.
one for I have an R9 and it's a project gun. It's brand spanking new. It's been sitting ever since I bought it. Believe it or not, it's been sitting, I don't know, I think it's going on 4 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I tore the trigger apart to help somebody out one time. And ever since I did that, I never put it back. I got the custom stock for, you know, and I thought, well, in fact, now I just got the .20 cal barrel for it. Now, the light stays are going to get to it, but it just gets put on the back burner. It's the same with I got a Pro Elite, a Air Arms Pro Elite sitting here.
Oh, okay.
I have a new stock for it. And I got a Cerakote shop. I could do full Cerakoting, but I don't do much of it. But I'm all set up to do it.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you might be my new best friend.
No, that's fine. And then with the Pro Elite, I thought, you know, that's too nice of a gun. I don't want a Cerakote.
Yeah. You know what? You can Cerakote some of mine. I'll pay you, brother. I mean, please, because I don't have any Air Arms that's got that mirror beautiful bluing on it, you know, no, like you're talking about, like the Pro Sport or the TX or whatever, you know. I just, you know, yeah, because I definitely wanted to try Cerakoting. I like matte finishes. Even in my stocks, I like the oil, you know, versus the high gloss. You know, I really like tactile, you know, stuff. Because I'm such a field guy versus just like shooting at a bench. Like, you know, I'll go out here and I'll walk in the cornfields and it's wet, you know, it's rainy, it's drizzly maybe, you know, and I do that just to kind of put myself in touch with nature and, you know, man out there getting the full experience and a little bit of suffering for a little bit of gratification if I hit some game, you know, and come home with some meat, you know, and so I like the tactile stuff. So that Cerakoting has been something that I saw. I forget that guy's name in England, but he's like a tuner in England and he does like custom shrouds for Virox and stuff. Man, what is his name? He does amazing work, but he's Cerakoted, and I've seen some Cerakoted TXs that had twisted barrels on them, right? And they like fancy powder burner barrels. And but he Cerakoted like the actions and stuff on like Virox and Dianas and stuff. And they look amazing. And I'm really interested in that because I think it's something that can like, you know, kind of take the spring gun into a different realm where it's not so much like this, what I want to say, this jeweled, beautiful piece of beautiful, you know, I don't want to get a scratch on it, to something that's like the working gun out in the field that it can take a hit, you know, from some branches and some scratches maybe and stuff like that, because you're out there using it a lot, you know what I'm saying? So
sure,
that's something I've definitely, and same thing with like stippling. I think like sometimes this thing ain't got no stippling on here, you know, it's got a little on the grip here, but so what, you know, and sometimes even that's lame, you know, and I like this one, I took a wire brush and I really got into it, you know, really detailed and was able to get more of that feeling. Cause I feel like some of it got filled in just from hand skin and whatever.
Yeah,
and
I'll bet. Yeah.
You know, so
I've got an 85K that's so beat up. And I thought I'm going to Cerakote that.
Yeah.
In fact, the stock isn't even usable. It's just horrible. But I have a spare 95 stock I could stick it in. But
okay.
You know, I just hate to see guns getting trashed. You know, I saved this Air Arms Pro Elite came in a broken stock, and I said, you know what? I don't know who did that to the gun, but we're going to save this gun. And so I got the new thumb hole for it. And then I was going to Cerakote it. And I thought, nah, I do know a good guy. He'll do a really good blue job on it. But I've been putting that off because I don't want to put the money into it. So
Okay.
I decided to draw the line. You know, I'll do the work to the gun, but I'm not going to send it out to get blued. It's not bad. But the other gun, the 85K, is really beat up. I mean, but I'm going to save that too. Even if I have to rebarrel it, I'll rebarrel it in .20.
Man.
Corey loves to hear that, man.
Oh,
Man after his own heart.
Yeah, if you want me to Cerakote something for you, you know, just let me know. And, you know, we can talk about it. And
yeah.
you know, the thing about the Cerakote is that stuff, according to the Cerakote company, that stuff doesn't have a good shelf life. Notice it separates.
Okay.
And the liquid stuff in there, nobody has been able to tell me what that stuff is, but it evaporates little by little. If you don't use it, you'll see that goes down.
Okay.
I had some orange. I believe it was Hunter Orange. I was going to do some Tiger Stripes.
Oh yeah.
And I went to go use it, and it was so long before I went to use it that it actually went bad.
Okay.
So I did the Tiger Stripes, but it wasn't with the Hunter Orange. It was what was that bronze gold that they use on the Cerakote guns? I use that burnt bronze with a black.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh, so I think they did that on the Huntsman, that anniversary edition Huntsman, that really beautiful one with the laminate stock.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the color on that rifle you're talking about. It's like that dark bronze kind of. It's almost brown.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the Benjamin Trail. And if I'm waiting for my spring wire so I can make a stupid jam spring. I can release the video.
Yeah. Mike, you were telling me about that. Well, guys, I think we're over like 2 hours.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
wow.
it's about like 2 minutes.
I know, right? I mean, I definitely think that there's way more. This went about, as I think I told both of you guys, it's pretty much just going to be me introducing you guys and then just letting you rip, because like I said in my little promo about this was the knowledge that you two guys have about this subject there's nothing better. I don't think there's two better guys that I know of that you can't learn something from, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
so,
I totally appreciate that. Thank you for the compliment. You know, I have to give credit to Tom Gore. I mean, that man is a genius, and he's really helped me to really wrap my mind around concepts and stuff. And guys like Mike too, you know, like Ellingsworth, man. I mean, come on, that guy is the master at these hot suns, you know, and just doing stuff that is so cool.
Yeah.
And, you know, that I could learn from about a different platform, you know.
When Corey finally got his hands on a Hotson, and he knew I have several of them, and and I just said, just go watch Mike's channel. I said, anything you need to know, you're going to see it there. That's where I learned all of it. And I know I've told you, Mike, on several occasions that I appreciate the content that you put out. That really helped me a lot. Can you imagine tearing in one of them Quattro triggers and not?
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? With no base at all to go off of what you're about to do to yourself. You know
I know, dude. No, dude, it was ridiculous. And I was like so glad that Mike had put that stuff out, because like I'm saying, like I looked at it and I was like, oh God. Because I was so used to the record trigger, you know, or even like the TO6 or something, you know, I'm like, this thing here though, oh my God. And like Mike, you were saying earlier, some of the guys that probably are engineering the spring guns or these like trigger groups like that, do they even shoot air guns?
Right. Yeah.
I don't even know if they do. You know, it's like, looks good on paper, you know?
Well, it was nice meeting you. I had a good conversation. I was surprised.
I knew you guys were going to get along.
You were surprised, Mike?
No, I was really nice meeting you, and I enjoyed your conversation and all your input and all the stuff you shared. And I think that's really cool. You're working with Tom, you
Oh,
know?
yeah, man.
I can't wait to see what he's going to come out with, because, you know, the things with air guns, there's always room for something new to come out with, but people got to use this and
Oh,
stop
yeah.
being. I don't know how many mornings I've woken up with an idea in my head, just getting out of bed. I'm like,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
you
That's
know.
like this. That's like the story of Tom's life, right? Like, I'm like, oh man, he's told me so many stories about late nights and ideas and going crazy. And, you know, one thing I wanted to say is that also, I'm so lucky. I am so lucky to have met Tom. And I live like 25 minutes from him. It's like crazy, you know?
Great.
And
And you
I
get
never
along,
thought I
right?
would, what's that?
And you get along.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I hug that man. He's definitely my brother. I love that man.
That's
We've been
awesome.
hanging out for, I don't know, is it going on 2 years now, maybe? But you know, it's just he's a true brother, and just it's a genuine dude, and he's so humble, you know, which is cool because there are times where he could not be humble, and it would be validated, you know, but he takes the high road, and you know, really has the passion. And you know, I think I got to give credit, because like it kind of saved me from just being another number in the PCP world, where there's so many people that are doing PCP reviews and PCP gun mods and PCP this. I mean, and I understand why, because it's the more popular chosen, what I want to call it, like power plant to choose from, because you don't have to cock the gun, and you know, it's much easier, and it shoots farther and big power and this and that. But like, I don't know, I just, for some reason, I didn't want to just be another one of them guys. And I started on my YouTube channel a couple years ago, and then I bailed on it because I was just like, you know, and I didn't know what direction I wanted to go and stuff. And what happened now, I've landed here. I never anticipated that. And now I'm here, and I'm like, this is actually a really cool spot. Like, this is something that like is almost, some people will say it's like dying, you know, even like the 20 cal. And I'm bound determined to bring the 20 cal back as much as I can myself through my channel and platforms like Instagram and Facebook. And, you know, I'm going to really start, you know, because there's guys here in America that are shooting 20 cal spring guns and PCPs, and they like them. And now in the market, you see now Nick Nielsen from NSA is making 2 different offerings in 20 cal slug weights. And then you have, who's the other one? Precision Ballistics in England. They make that new 20 cal, or actually they also have 2 offerings for 20 cal slugs. One of them is a solid one, and the other one's a hollow point, 2 different weights. And then now, from what I understand, and I have a really good feeling that Zan Projectiles out of Croatia, I think he's out of Croatia. He's real big now because he's made those pellets for 30 cal pellets for bench rush shooting, and his slugs are doing really well. I actually shoot some of his 10 grain slugs out of some of my PCPs, and they do really well out of 177s. He, I think, is also going to be coming out with a 20 cal offering, because I've kind of been hammering on him and messaging him directly through Instagram, because he'll post something and I'm like, is that going to be in 20 cal? You know, and like, you know, so I'm always trying to push that 20 cal, because I think, you know, Ken Brown and I have gone back and forth real quick, and you know, he's like, oh man, and even though Ken Brown, I love you, brother, and you got 20 cal guns, he would say, it's dying off, it's gonna die off. And I'm like, no, it'll only die off if we let it die off. If we, you know, and I want to be an advocate for it, not let it die off, because the BC of that 20 cal round is something to be noticed, and something to be utilized, and something to be experienced by people. Because in that optic, when you're holding, and you know, I don't got to hold over as much. I got to hold over for that 22 caliber round out of spring guns when I got that 20 cal, and it's still knocking the sparrow dead at 52 yards. You know.
Yeah. They always say that. They always say, you know, that 20 cal is going to, It ain't going anywhere.
No.
I really don't.
There's some PCP manufacturers also, PJ Clark from Wisconsin Airgunners, who now moved down to Florida. PJ is working with Donnie FL and Saber Tactical. He likes spring guns and 20 cal and stuff. And him and I've chatted about it too. And they were just at, when they were at the SHOT Show. Was it SHOT Show? Yeah, I think it was SHOT Show. There was Airmox Arms out of, I think they're out of somewhere Eastern Bloc. They're talking about that they were talking to some of the technicians there at the booth, PJ and another guy. I think it might have been, it was Joe from Predator International. They were talking to the technicians and they were like, what about a 20 cal? Because Joe from Predator International, he loves his 20 cals too. And so does PJ. And the guys at Airmox Arms were like, so what if we did a run of this model in 20 cal? Would you guys be interested? And they were like, yeah. So even in 2023, you have a PCP manufacturer that's considering doing a 20 cal run, just because it might be something that, hey, wait a minute. Now we got some projectiles coming out that are slugs, and PCP guys are wanting to shoot slugs, and it's starting to get a little bit of noticeability or whatever I'm trying to say. It's getting a little recognition, should I say, like getting kind of brought back out of the closet. Like what I would like to see happen with a lot of guys' spring guns too is, you know what? Times are changing and technology advancements and stuff. And I'm going to go grab my R1, or I'm going to go grab my, my R9 or my 95 that I put away and thought,
Yep.
Let's do it. We're always looking for something new and different, right? Maybe just going back and revisiting some of the old stuff.
Exactly.
It
was nice meeting you guys. I had a good time.
You too,
Thanks,
Mike.
Thanks both you guys
brother.
for doing it, and we can do it again soon. When I emailed, I CC'd. So you guys, I don't know if you can see each other's email addresses there if you want to exchange some messages or.
Oh, definitely.
Or just exchange
as
information
long as Mike's
there.
cool with it. I got to respect my elders as long as Mike's cool with it. Are you cool with it, Mike?
Yeah, I'm cool with it. Okay,
All right.
well, you take care, all right?
All right, guys.
All
Have a
right,
good
man.
night.
You too, Mike. Thanks.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
Welcome. All righty.